Hello, me lovelies. Well, do you know what? Just heard some strange noises in here. Just wait for a few people to come in if anyone wants to join. Need to hear what I'm waffling on about today. See, Mrs. O was in the chat. But, see, everyone can hear me, can't they? Do you know, I hate that. I go down to look at the comments and this screen is that bright, I can't see what I'm typing in. So if I don't type anything in, it's because the screen's that bright. I really struggle to see what comments are on there. So just wait. Hello. There we are. The end is coming. You had some strange noises before I actually started this stream. I thought the bleeding central heating, there was something wrong with it. It was going to explode. Oh, it made an awful weird, strange sound. A very, very strange sound. So I thought, God, what's going on here? But settled down so far. And that's why I've got my shawl on. I forgot to put the central heating on before it started. So but I've got a few things to talk about. Oh, I think it's going to be a bit of a bitchy one, this one. Yes. Going to be a bit of an Ann bitch, this one. Because, I've been noticing a lot of things going on and some things that, I thought I'll have to comment on that. But how's people, anyone want to tell me how their day has been? If anyone wants to jump in, just jump in. Say, hiya, Paris. Hello, Paris. Just anyone wants to tell me the day? My day, it's been me. Oh, Pyrex. What's happened to Pyrex? Where no Pyrex dishes. Now, years ago, you got Pyrex dishes. I'm telling you now, you could knock down, you could demolish houses with them. And you know those chimneys, you could demolish them with Pyrex dishes. Now, I just dropped one this morning. It slipped, smashed into 1,000 pieces. Well, it didn't count it. That's an exaggeration. It didn't count how many pieces the way they're, darling. But smashed to smithereens. Honestly, they're not they don't make them like they used to, let's put it that way. Hiya, Carrie. Yeah, so that's annoyed me because, wait a minute, Pyrex dishes shouldn't smash, they should bounce right off the floor when they hit it. So I'm not too happy at that. Got to buy myself some new Pyrex. But other than that, not much has been happening. I've been watching the internet, and today, all at once, all things starts happening. And I thought I will have to comment on some of the things that I've seen being said. But I'll get round to that. So how are you doing, Paris? How's it going for you? Oh, you're doing a sneaky little listen, Carrie. Oh, let's hope you don't get caught. I remember in Admiral Street Police Station when I worked there. When you do nights, you'd go in on nights from 7. What am I saying? 7. You go in. Wait a minute, I can't remember. Was it 7 or 10? No, it'd be 10. 10 o'clock at night. You go and you'd be off duty 7 a.m. the next morning. And there used to be like a little in the office. There'd be a little cubbyhole, and all the officers, not like cubbyhole, like little shelves, and all the officers used to go in there and have a little snooze. Or they'd be in the patrol cars. It'd be quiet. And they'd always know a spot where no one would see them. They'd pull in and have a little sleep. But I don't blame them, actually, because you know what? The shifts in the police are absolutely horrific. Oh, you're pulling trees down. Oh, my God. Now, make sure you don't break your nails when you do that. But I remember that, you used to have little, and in the patrol cars, they'd pull in, have a little sleep until the control room woke them up. But a few times, a couple of them didn't wake up because what the shifts used to be like, I don't know what they're like now, but they were horrendous. You'd be 4 days on a shift, a late shift, let's say. Then you could have, let's say, 2 rest days off. But really, one of those rest days was wasted because you had to try and get yourself quickly accustomed to the fact that you're going to be in mornings in the morning. So where you'd have a night shift, you'd be on 10 to 7 in the morning. You'd have a break for, let's say, 2 days. But the day before, you'd have to get yourself used to the fact that you were getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to do the day shift. It used to be an absolute pain. You'd be constantly knackered. Hiya, Crystal Alice. Hope you're keeping okay, sweetheart. Yeah, so it's Anne said it. Yeah, so it used to be you could never adjust yourself to a shift because you'd just get used to. But you wouldn't even get used to 4 days. You wouldn't get used to a shift, and then you'd have to get ready for the next one, which could be a morning shift. So you'd be on completely the different hours. It used to be horrendous, absolutely horrendous. You'd just be going in like zombies some days, and that's what's scary when police are going around in the response. They're the ones that respond to emergencies in the cars. I mean, you've got someone there that's most probably like a zombie driving that patrol car. And you think, how the hell more accidents don't happen? I don't know. So that's what it used to be like there. So anyway, what to talk about today? If anyone's got any suggestions, because I know I've got not a rant. I'm going into complaining mode. I know that, and I want to hold that off until it's appropriate to go into mode. Because I heard a couple of things being said on the internet by a couple of people, and I thought, oh. But I suppose one I can start off with is the latest one that people are talking about, Lazar. And I should stop calling him that. I keep on forgetting that's his surname, isn't it, Lazar? It sounds rude. It'd be like me not saying Paris and saying Barrington every time I talk about Paris Barrington. Living in London, Daniel. But Lazar's such a cool sounding name, isn't it? It would make a brilliant first name, Lazar. Anyway, his wife has been on, hasn't she? Saying basically that he's a deadbeat dad. But I've got my thoughts on that. I really have got my thoughts on that, and I do on that. It's I don't know. I wonder what other people will think about this. Do you agree with her doing that, or hiya, Marion? Oh, thank you for that. First thing that jumped into my mind when I saw the video, I thought, I don't know, the old adage is, isn't it? You don't. It wasn't until I saw her son there and said, this is his son. I thought, oh, you don't talk about things. Oh, that's the way I was brought up. You don't talk about things like that. Or you don't diss one parent. One parent doesn't diss the other parent. Look, a child will find out as they're growing up for themselves who's the good parent. And if they've got a bad parent, they'll know. They'll work it out. They don't need to be told. They'll work it out. And also, you don't want to give the other parent the excuse to say, oh, you turned me kids against me, which is the first thing they'll accuse it of. I mean, how many women hear this, that the partners have left them and they have to bring up the children? How many women have heard the allegation, oh, you turned them against me, when they didn't? They didn't turn the child against them. So don't give someone that excuse by saying it in front of the child. But also it's how can I put it? She said at one point that he'd taken his son out to McDonald's. But you know what? That's more than a lot of these fathers that go light on the feet and shoot out the door to leave the mother to bring up the children do. They wouldn't even do that much. But apparently he's given receipts to say he does pay up. But again, he's joined in the argument, hasn't he? Which he should have refrained from, because it looks like she's upset. She's really upset. And what he was saying, she's gone through a lot. So he should have not really responded to us and gave that support, because he was saying she's gone through a hell of a lot. But I think she'll regret it. I think she will. It's not a wise thing to do to broadcast all over the internet. I think she's just really, really upset. So you just have to, do that. That's what you have to do. Just had the American on being insulting. That's why he's suddenly gone. Oh, that did you see it, Paris? I know, yeah. I think I know who that is. I've got a good idea who that is. Yeah, you know, the ones that if it, the person that the honest truth go used to go on about how he was wonderful. It's just like just I'm not even mentioning its name because you mentioned the name, it gets advertising, doesn't it? But no, it hasn't been. Well, the thing is, this is it. I mean, I'm not judging Lazar, right? And I'm not judge. I should stop saying that. I'm not judging Daniel, and I'm not judging his ex-wife because from what he was saying, he did say she's been going through a hell of a lot. But just because she's going through a hell of a lot doesn't mean that what she's saying is lies. You can be going depressed, going through a hell of a lot, and still be telling the truth. But it's just that when she said they took him to McDonald's, I know some, well, we all do. You'll know mothers who struggle to bring the children up on their own, and they never see the father from 1 year to the next. So, that's it. But I think it's best to keep things like that away from the children because children will realize as they grow up, they'll realize because it is as adults. I mean, you can take it suddenly when you look back, it's awful weird as well. As you get older and you start thinking back, you realize how as a child you really do have a warped imagery of parents. It's a strange thing, but then you start thinking, maybe I was, you think if you were hard on one parent or judgmental on one parent, you think, because like my papa, I had a strange relationship with him. He was very domineering. It could become a button very domineering and could be cold. There were no hugs or anything like that. But let's put this way: if anyone would have ever touched me, they would have been dead. That was the certainty. So he was that way. But back then, men were different. Men weren't you maybe with the daughters they'd be cuddly and give them hugs and a little kiss and all that, but they didn't do it, to the sons or anything like that. So you didn't get that same. But I was told as I grew up that he really loved me to bits, really loved me to bits, which I won't go into because I nearly didn't survive the birth process. And I was told what he said, and he always felt, really, really connected to me. But men didn't then. They didn't show their emotions like they do now. It's much better now. Men will show their emotions, which I think is lovely towards the children. Men, it's like you see men, I think it's the most beautiful sight. A father proudly with a pram going down. Oh, you'd never seen that. A man with a pram. Oh, no, that was for a woman to do. Men didn't wheel prams or anything like that. So, but I always used to, I'd be like, how can I put it? It wasn't that I disliked him. I was sore with him, let's put it that way. So I thought, wait a minute, my life's been mapped out. I had no say in it. And, I was never quite good enough. But it wasn't until years ago, until years and years later, well, after he passed away, I suddenly realized. I thought what he was doing was because I was put into that performance world, that area, that you're never good enough. It's supposed to drive you on and drive you on because you can never get perfection. You can only be better than what you are. And that's what I think it was. But when you look back at it as an adult, you think, oh my God, I was harsh in my thoughts. I mean, he was a human being with human emotions. He worked damn well hard. And his father was, again, you're going back even further, father was an absolute brute of a man. I mean, you're talking about belt off that business. I never met my paternal grandfather. He died before I was born. But you think back, and that's what you've got to be careful of. And children will as they grow older and become adults, you get mind to your own, and you start thinking back. It wasn't quite as I saw it, so I wouldn't go slacking off one parent, no matter how sore you are with them, to a child, because it could actually have the opposite effect. They could turn around and turn on you for doing it as they get older. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, that's it. This is what worries me as well. It's too easy now for people to. I mean, I won't name this pet. Well, I can't remember the name, but I'm not saying this. If they hear me saying it, I'm not dissing them. Please don't think I'm dissing them. But I'm someone. I was having a conversation about kissing in front of children, and because I made a comment against another YouTuber, it's sort of like starts this big debate, and I was painted this fuddy duddy and all this business. Which fair enough. I mean, I do think I'm a bit of a prude, and I'm a bit well behind the times and that kind of thing. Time moves on, but I haven't caught up with that side of it. But a couple of people kept on saying one thing: "Oh, they'll learn it. Children will learn it when they go to school." So I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Children learn a hell of a lot of things when they go to school." So they'll learn about sex from the friends. They'll learn about drugs from the friends. I said, "You're supposed to start doing that in front of them because they're going to learn it anyway." Now, this person came back, and at one point, he was painting this image of his what was it? His family. He'd done drugs. They'd seen him high as a kite under the influence, as he put it. But they never went on drugs. But they didn't do this. But they were perfect model citizens. And I thought, no, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because I'm sorry. There's no way if you're growing up in a family where one parent is addicted to either alcohol or drug abuse, and I'm talking about serious drugs. I'm not talking about a bit of herb. I'm talking about serious drugs. There's no way you can say that's not going to affect that child as they grow up. No way, because I can tell you now, most of the people, well, a high percentage of people that go into these mental health units, they'll tell you. When I worked in the police and worked in the probation service with drug users, I can't tell you how many times that they tell you the same thing the parent was using in front of them. Drugs were normalized around them. It's the same with domestic violence if a child sees that. And no parent need kid themselves on that. If domestic violence is going on that the child doesn't know, they'll know. They'll know even if they're not in the same room. And it starts a vicious circle, especially with females. Daughters who have been in abusive relationships will go into, we know that it's a fact, I've got a high chance of going into abusive relationships. Now people wear their emotions on the sleeve too much as parents, and they shouldn't. And that's because the image of the parent, the standard of the parent is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. The parent was always responsible for everything. Now you can blame the schools if the child's acting up. Now you can blame this if the child's acting up. Now you can blame they're not getting support if the child acts up. Back then, it was all on the parent. Oh, you're a bad parent. Which wasn't always true. I've known people with perfect parents and their children turn out to be, go off the rails. It just happens. But, one scenario doesn't fit all. But as I see it, you need that definition. This is the parent, that's the child, and the child's protected. So I wouldn't go on the internet like living in London's ex-missus did and say this. But again, I'm not in her shoes. I don't know how, bad it is for her. So it could be let's have a look. Hiya, Karen. But yeah, and it was more, but again, don't let me do a rosy picture of that years ago. Everything was better. No, people were held and locked into really miserable marriages because divorce back then was a taboo, a real taboo. And so, and now I remember that the 70s, still then, having a baby out of wedlock. That was disgusting. You have this myth that the 60s changed everything. It didn't. It wasn't until we got into the late 70s that things started changing. Here we are, Foxy Roxy. I'm talking at my screen, nodding and chatting. Swears you can hear me. My head's gone. But yet, so these people that say, "Oh, my children grew up as ideal model citizens, and I was used, and they saw me under the influence." Dream on. It doesn't happen like that, and be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, and also, you see, we need these definitions back. We do. We need this. That's a parent. That's a child. Once you get that back, it's going to be much easier. But now, as I say, people, it's too easy to blame someone else when things go wrong, and it's like, no, look more closer to home. And it's not even a case of you see, the whole of society, this is another thing I say, the whole of society has changed as well. And one thing that always gets me is, when people say, "Oh, don't spoil your children," but I can't imagine having a child and they're going to school, and in the school, this is why I think we should still have school uniforms. In the school, you've got some kid with, I don't know, the best Nike, the best outfits, they've got all the trendies, and you're going to send your kid in. They'll get jeered and skittered. So parents are under tremendous pressure to buy those labels. And I can't imagine being under that stress. It must be horrendous. That would drive you to drugs and drink. It would, having that stress on you. Now this, yeah, it can do. Once cursing becomes a part of vocabulary, if you're hearing it every day and it becomes part of your language, yet it will slip out all the time, or it will slip out when you don't realize that. And believe me, I can curse at times. I've done it in the past. I mean, it's rare, but I have done it. It's got to be something where I really get someone really winds me up, or I'm in a really bad situation, because I did that at the Merseyside Police and I came out with a right mouthful. So but I have to be in an extreme exaggeration, and no children around. There was no children there. But again, as I say, I haven't caught up. Maybe I'm in the wrong, and I say that. Maybe I'm in the wrong because I haven't caught up with that part. That's my idea. That's my don't curse in front of children. Don't do this. I mean, if I had my way, I'd ban saying bro, oh God, and dude, I'd ban that. But that's because I'm an owl. An owl one, aren't I? But all that I hear is, I blow, yeah, blow, 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 blow. And then stewed, yeah, wow. And it's like, that's one thing we've got from America, isn't it? Let's see. Did you just see? Oh, yes. I left a comment. What it was, Karma Corner, who absolutely adores me, one of my biggest fans. Oh, he's a right bunny boiler around me. He loves me, adores me, he adores me. He did a video about Dan G. He actually left a comment on us. And this rumor's going around that the reason you don't see the end of the video, because it just cuts off, doesn't it, where Darren's getting attacked by that fella with the seat, is because he went to the car and pulled out a knife out the car, or he had a knife on him. I doubt if he'd have the knife on him, because if the police would have stopped him, especially Merseyside, you don't want to carry weapons around with you, because they are really up on knife crime. That's one of the passions since Bernard Hogan was the chief constable there. When I was there, he was chief constable. When I was there, Bernard Hogan, and he was passionate about ending knife crime. But he was supposed to have pulled out a knife, and that's why you don't see the end of the video. Karma Corner asked him, "Did you?" And Dan just blocked him straight out. But we saw that one with Sean Atwood, where in the flat he's in, or the room he's in, he pulls out this huge knife and he says he has it for protection. And this is what I say about Dan G. What comes out of his mouth and what he preaches about and all this, what's all this? It's like he's, I don't know. But he's preaching all the time. But what he's preaching about, he's doing. He goes on, don't do drugs. We know he's doing drugs. You see him high as a kite. You just see him. If he's not on drugs on some of those videos, he has got some really strange syndrome that he needs sorting out and addressing. He does some very strange syndrome. because it mimics being high as a kite. So, but he's giving out this message: don't do drugs. And that's why I said in a video I did the other day, it absolutely horrifies me when he keeps on calling people dangerous to children. It's like, wait a minute, just I won't even go any further than that. But everything he accused, and I've said before, he slipped up, he did. He comes out with all this horrendous homophobic rants. But he actually slipped up, which I told him when he was going on about he was in prison and a nurse saved him from being gay. Jared the language saved him from being gay. As I said, wait a minute. I said, you don't suddenly turn gay. I said, you've got to have those feelings inside you. How many blokes out there? Come on, how many blokes, straight blokes, never looked at a man with any desire at all, only liked women? If you were in prison for 100 years, you wouldn't turn gay. You wouldn't. It would repulse you, the idea of it. You wouldn't want it. It's like a gay man, a man that's 100% gay, would never look at a woman and think of doing anything, no matter how, no matter if there were no other men on the planet. So he came out, he ousted himself basically as either being bi or gay. So everything he says is a contradiction. Everything he says, I mean, it's a reflection of himself. That's what he does. But let's see. Yes, but he's not allowed. Who isn't Foxy? He's not allowed around his own child. Is that Darren? Oh, yeah. Well, this is what I said about Dan. He'll either end up getting locked up again, or he'll end up in a mental health unit because he's just, and with people throwing money at him, don't do it, people, because we know where that money's going. That's it. It's obvious where that money's going. But you know what you do? You can't. He's an adult, and if people want to give him money, you can't stop them, can you? You just have to let them do it. Throw money at them if they want to. But yeah, that's what happened over there. I think you pulled him on it. Carl McCorner pulled him on the fact that he blocked him when he asked about the knife. But I've got no doubt Darren will have a knife. This reformed character just isn't true at all. It just has never been true. And I've said that from day one. Because when I first heard of him, if I'll put this link if anyone wants to come in at any point. When I first heard of Darren and his campaign, was when he was basically, he wasn't all that. Didn't have that many followers. And then he started getting it. He started getting in with James English, didn't he? And I said to James, what he needs, I said, he can't structure a plan. He has this idea in his head, but I said he can't keep his attention span long enough, I said, to get a plan going so he can actually get something that he can deliver to schools and universities. I mean, that's gone out the window now. He'll never be in a school or a university. He can forget his message that he's given out. No one will dare chance taking him after the answers come out. Look, right, if you want to get into schools and colleges, you better make sure, even if you do have any ideas in your head, you don't break the woke laws, because that's where it really does get woke. So you have to be very, very careful over that. But that's what he needed. He needs someone to give him a plan and to get him in the right direction. But this thing about James English always irked me as well, because when Darren turned on James English and blamed James, apparently James English had his hand up his backside and was making him slag Sean and other people off. That's Darren's way, never takes responsibility. James English then came back with a retort and said that he knew he was on drugs. He knew about what he'd done to his mother and what he'd done to his partner. And I thought, well, wait a minute, if you knew all that, right, why were you trying to promote him, which he was trying to promote him as this wonderful guy that people could aspire to, which Sean is trying to do at the moment. God, if that's an inspiration, I'd hate to see what. Oh, enough of that. But yeah, but why James did that? Because he was selling a product, and this is where I think this is the only thing I agree with Darren G. Is that he does get used by people for clicks. He does, and he's aware that he's getting used by clicks. James Ing's show did offer him a golden opportunity. I think he must regret that. James offered him a golden opportunity, and that's gone now. And he'll never get the same opportunity again. But James knew it was all, this reformed character was all a fake. So that was something. Maybe what's this? I was gone really weird as well. That was impossible. Says Sean's. Oh, he is. He is. I was going to say that actually. I saw him with that fella. What's his name? Andrew Gold. I don't mean the one. I don't mean the singer Andrew Gold. What did he? Oh, what song? That famous song. It's lovely. Oh, I'll remember it sooner or later. But anyway, Andrew Gold, that's the fellow that did the thing about exorcism, didn't he? And I was watching it and I thought, he's acting really weird, Sean. Really, really weird. I mean, I know we can have strange affects, which everyone says, but he was like particularly odd the way he was carrying on. I don't know whether there's some stress going on there or what's going on, but it is strange what's going on there. But that Andrew Gold fella, I don't like him one bit, and I'll tell you why. He, and I haven't spoken about this before to anyone, he did this BBC program about an exorcism and saying that, exposing this fraudulent exorcist, and he was going on about these poor, vulnerable women and all this. So I got onto when I saw him sniffing around Sean, and I said, "You do know?" I said, "Have you looked at what Sean's doing behind the scenes?" Because we all saw it. I'm sorry, Sean can't deny this. We all saw it. Anyone that watched it when he was when he was interviewing John Wedger, the ex-Met police officer, the whistleblower who has no pee in his whistle because he's never actually exposed anyone. He's only made lots and lots of money and refused to say where this money has gone to. In one part of the interview, Sean had this, and to me, it was totally planned and set up, and it wasn't genuine. And he said, "Oh, I've just got an email here." This is Sean talking to John. "I've got an email here, and this woman wants an exorcism. Could you put in contact with someone, John?" And John goes, "Oh, yes. I can put her in contact with someone." Totally set up. I don't believe that email was genuine. It was planned to advertise to people and put the message out there. Come to John Wedger or come to me, Sean. And guess what? Because the cameraman Sean has got is well into John Wedger. A big, huge supporter of John Wedger. And I've said this before, John Wedger, you have to be careful of, because what I consider to be very vulnerable people are being made to believe that they've been victims of demons and everything else and getting exercised. And as I said last week to Paul Venice, I said to him, he was saying that he'd seen someone that was possessed. I said very strongly, no, there isn't. There's no such thing as demonic possession. And when you exercise people, you just abuse. It's an abuse of someone that's mentally ill, basically. That's what you're abusing. That's my viewpoint. Well, I told Andrew Gold this. And I said, look, you want to look what your mate's going up to? I said, you've done a video, I said, for the BBC, I said, going on about exorcism and how tough these poor victims and all this now was dangerous. I said, but yet you mix them with him. Totally ignored me, and he saw it, because on Facebook how you can tell someone's seen your message because you see the Avi turning up next to it. He'd seen it, didn't even reply. But this morning, Sean was advertising his exorcism program he did for the BBC, and I'm just sitting there and thinking, do you know what? You're just anything for the money. And it always reminds me of something, the way Savile got away with it. And it's so typical that Andrew Gold has that attitude and he worked for the BBC. Because the only reason Savile got away with what he did, and it's not just Savile, that's the only one you've heard about, but there's others. Wait for them to pass away, then you'll find out about them. The reason he got away with it, because everyone took the same logic. When they were told about it, they ignored it. They totally ignored it and looked the other way and thought about themselves. And the only ones that did speak out was, of course, famously, John Lydon from the Sex Pistols, or PIL, as he's with now. He was one that spoke out in the 70s, but they forget, and this is what people forget, and I can't remember his name, and you never see him now, which is telling, very telling, a Scottish comedian. Used to have long black hair, and he used to be on late at night on the television with like a show. Dead funny, Scottish comedian. And you never see him now. But he also did a comedy routine, and I think you can find it on YouTube. And what he actually does is he actually says about Savile. Now, that's when Savile was still alive. So people did speak out, but the vast majority didn't. So when someone like Andrew Gold is told, look, there could be a situation here where vulnerable women are being led into a dangerous situation, and he just blanks it after he's the one that did a video about out, these exorcists. I thought that shows you what he's like. And up to you to decide. If he'd been in the BBC and heard about Savile, would he have done it? You decide. My view is he wouldn't have done anything. And that's what, when I was watching him, and he talks, that voice he has, the well-trained voice, that voice went out in the 70s for radio, that well-clipped. They don't like it. They prefer regional ones now. Regional accents. No, it wasn't Billy Connolly. It wasn't Billy Connolly. He's God, he used to be on. Was it Channel 4 late at night? Long black hair, curly black hair. And he used to wear a top hat, a black top hat. God, he was funny. And suddenly he just vanished. You never heard him again. But I can't remember his name. There's any Scottish listeners out there that can remember him. Let's see. That's it. Jerry Showitz. Am I pronounced that right? That's it. That's him. He was the one. He spoke. He said in his show about him, about Savile. So the way people, but where did his television career continue? Certainly did not. So thank you for that, David. I'm terrible for names. So people did, but they didn't. And that's how things like Savile happened, because the vast majority were thinking of themselves. And that's why I don't like that Andrew Goldfellow with Sean, because I think, yeah, you ignore it when you think you can get something off someone, because what's he getting off Sean? We don't know. I think he's made the wrong move, because I'm sorry, he's jumped on the Titanic after it's hit the iceberg. It's just going down all the time. But let's see, just looking at some of the I don't know whether I should talk about this. I don't know. I've just read a book about the Reverend Dr. Donald Omand, is that? He was an exorcist, convinced me. You see, the thing is, right, I'm sorry, I've seen these videos of so-called people who are possessed. It's a load of nonsense. You can tell they're not possessed. You always hear that, when the camera's on there, someone levitated, or someone did something else, or someone did something else. The head spun round or something, but they never tend to get it on camera for some reason. Strange that, isn't it? They never get it on camera. They just get someone talking like Kermit the Frog with a bad voice. Sore throat Kermit. I mean, what's that all about? Anyone can do that. So, but I think it's very dangerous to start labeling people as being possessed. I think it is. But thank you for that. busy bee. But and it's the damage you can do as well. And of course, then they start labeling anyone with mental health issues possessed by demons. It's not right at all. It's not one bit right at all doing it. So I say just keep well away from it. But you never do look for it, people. See if you ever see any of these videos of exorcisms, the one that's supposed to be genuine exorcisms, if they do these things. It's like there was a famous one, right, years ago. The Wolf Man. And it was somewhere in London, and this fella just went totally bizarre. He went extremely bizarre. And this is in, they always advertise this as a police. The police confirmed it, and the fire brigade did. And they say that's a proof of demonic possession. Now, what it was, he just went totally off his face and started acting like basically as if he was a werewolf, should we say, and attacked officers and everything. Anyway, they got him in the cell, and they always say this to prove that he was demonically possessed. They have the slits in the doors, the old doors. They have these things to put the food through and all that. Well, he got his one arm and his head through it. And they always say, there we are. How could he have done that? How could he have done that? Got his head through there unless he was possessed. Well, what they sort of don't focus on is that the fire brigade came and pushed his head back in and his arm, and that's how they freed him. Well, if they could push his head back in, that means it was quite possible for him to push his head out. Do you see what I'm saying? They were able to push his head. They didn't have to take the door apart or anything. So that makes you think, well, even though it sounds extraordinary to put his head through it, it must have been big enough to get his head through, because they managed to push his head back in. They didn't have to do anything to open the door. So, listen for little details like that, and you'll see the truth of it. Because believe me, police officers can get it wrong as well. I'm glad we're about the bike attack. Oh, I've just been speaking about that, haven't I? The bike attack, but yet, so when they go on about these Otis evidence, and it's just, I don't know, to me it always sounds very much medieval to me. Very, very medieval. And I think what it is that, again, to get this, it's not just from the Bible, it's from the Quran all over the world, this belief in demonic possession, isn't it? But that's the only way they could explain strange or unexpected behavior back then. But they never actually filmed. I think there's only one, isn't there, where it looks something strange does happen. His face sort of changes. That was odd. So I don't know. But I'd imagine this is what I can't get also, is that aren't these demons supposed to be working for the devil? Well, why does the devil want to frighten people away? Doesn't the devil want to entice you into his web so he can get you? So why frighten you? And this is what I can't get as well. No, when they say, no, he's depicted. Well, we know why he's depicted with horns and all that. That was to try and discredit the old gods, wasn't it? The old nature gods of nature and stuff like that, the horn gods. Pan and all that, to try and discredit them, the church. But if you wanted to entrap someone and get them to do your bidding, or you wanted them to get soul off them, wouldn't you appear as everything they desire? You'd be everything they want. I mean, it's like these people who are danger to children, right? But they go up slobbering with big horns like that. No, they don't. They go got toys, they're tempting. So I think it's all a load of nonsense. Why a demon would do that to frighten people away, I don't know. Seems counterproductive to what they're supposed to be doing, or we're told they're supposed to. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, but this is so it's always based on, but you never actually see anything that's convincing. It's like I was talking about the other day about the Enfield Poltergeist, which obviously something happened in the Enfield Poltergeist, but this voice thing that Janice Hodgson came out with, the I'm Bill. Now, much was made of that, but and when you hear it on the tapes, the old reel-to-reel tapes, they used to make people's voices sound different. They never sounded exactly like the way. So when you hear it on the tape, it sounds really impressive. It's really guttural like that. But the BBC went in and filmed them, the family, and they got her talking in this voice on film. And when you hear it on the film with different sound equipment, much, much more advanced sound equipment, it's not convincing. It's just a little girl going, "Ugh," and you can see it. She's doing that with her mouth. So you're thinking she's just any little girl can do that. It doesn't take any great talent to do it. So they come up with this, but unless you actually see it happening, you have to say, well, I'm doubting it. And of course, if you're a believer in it or someone believes in it, they're going to be convinced by it, where someone that doesn't believe in such things is going to find it they want much, much more stringent evidence. When someone doesn't believe in it and they say, oh my God, I can't explain that away, then you start thinking, oh, there's something going on there. But there's always and these films, well, look what they did to the Enfield Poltergeist. That just, when they made it into a film, it's nothing like what happened. It's actually very boring what happened in the Enfield Poltergeist, because don't forget, it happened over 18 months, I think. And when you space out the things that happened, it must have been extremely boring sitting there waiting. Foxy Roxy. I don't know nothing about that. I find it hard that Wedger tells us this is going on everywhere. Well, this is it. I mean, if he was saying there were pockets somewhere, or there were, let's say, they were rare, but they were somewhere, yeah. But what these people are saying is that these temples, these satanic temples, are everywhere. Now, I'm sorry, if they were everywhere, there'd be evidence of them. And they keep on saying, we're over the targets, we're over the targets. But they never seem to locate the target. See what I'm saying? This is what I say. You have to question everything. If you're over the targets, and also they say, and this is the biggest teller of all, you've got to really question it and use what they call this, I hate this term, critical thinking skills. Because usually people who say critical thinking skills, you find out that they don't have any. But when you think about it, you've got to think of it logically. You've got to say, well, wait a minute. You're saying that this is going on everywhere and that you're over the targets and all this business, and you know it's going on. Well, if you know it's going on, you must have seen evidence of it going on. And if you've seen evidence of it going on, you know where it is going on. And you can get that evidence. But they never get that evidence. And this has been going on since the 80s. Or it could be the 70s, you could say. Someone said it actually really originates in the 70s. But I'm going back to Michelle Remembers, a Canadian book that kicked off the first satanic panic, as they call it. And it was debunked, very quickly debunked. All that they had to look into was time scales of when she was in school and when she wasn't in school. And it didn't add up where she was when she was a child and all this business. Not saying that Michelle herself was a liar, because she revealed this all under hypnosis. And she started having an affair with the hypnotist, so worked that one out. But it's not saying she was lying. She could have been convinced. And this way you've got to be careful of hypnotic evidence. That's why you can't use hypnosis in a legal case, because it's not reliable. You could say it's just someone dreaming. And there was a famous case in America where they actually did introduce hypnotic regression. And what it was, this someone had been shot, and there was one witness to this van that the police were convinced had the gunman in it. Now listen to me as I explain this, and see if you can see where the problem lies and where the court found the problem. She was regressed. The police got a hypnotist in to regress her back to the event. And she said she was walking across the road, remembered it perfectly. And she looked at the van and she could see a shadowy figure in the van. So the hypnotist said to her, now what I want you to do, he said, I want you to focus in on the person in the van. He said, focus in, make it sharper, make it sharper. Now you can see clearly inside the van. And then she described this fella who was in the dock, the accused. Well, can anyone work out why that was thrown out by the court? How many people in real life have got binocular vision that you can zoom in on something? If you're looking at a car and you see a shadowy figure and that's all you see and you can't identify it, you can't suddenly in real life zoom in on it. So hence, being under hypnotic regression, you can't zoom in on it. All that you can do is dream that you are, because the hypnotist told her she could do that. She did it, but in real life, she could never do that. So that was thrown out the case, and there was another woman, and this was all shown to show how you have to be very careful with hypnosis as using as evidence by regretting someone. They purposely got this woman, and they said to her, she said she'd heard a bang, and she genuinely had heard this bang during the night. I can't remember what they said the bang was, but she said she heard this bang. Anyway, that's all she said, it was a bang. And they said, what did it sound like? She said, just a bang. She said, nothing. She said, it just went back to sleep. Lots of people heard this bang. Anyway, they regressed, and this was to prove a point. And, oh, God, it was so telling. All that the hypnotist did, and he was very quiet, he went, gun. Like I've just said that. Gun. She woke up and she was convinced she'd heard a gun firing. And when they told her, no, you didn't, and played back what she'd said, that it wasn't, that it was just a bang, she said, no, it was a gun, it was a gun. He just literally said gun practically under his breath. And her, in the hypnotic state, she went wild and dreamt up that it was a gun. She was convinced that she'd heard a gun going off. So that's why you have to be careful. And that's why psychologists who are gathering information have to be very careful. And this happened with the satanic panic cases with children. Do you remember there was one in Wales? There was one in Rochdale, wasn't it? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And what these, without knowing it, these child psychologists, social workers, without knowing it, they didn't know. They were putting leads to the children. And one that should have got the warning flags going that something was going wrong here. And these children were inventing what they were saying. Or just taking, because see, children will start playing and make up things if they've got that environment, and you've got them with someone paying them a load of attention, an adult. They've got dolls and everything around them, and they're the centre of attention. They want to play. Well, one child turned around and said, and this should have been the teller, that something was going wrong. A toddler turned around and said that he'd swallowed. He was, by one of these satanic rings, he was forced to swallow a cat live, a live cat. How the hell could a child swallow a live cat? An adult couldn't do that. But they sort of ignored that and went for the other evidence. Destroyed families' lives, totally destroyed them. And then it came out. You couldn't rely on the evidence because without knowing it, because there was a blueprint from America of what to look for, these social workers were using this blueprint, but by using the blueprint, what they were doing, they were marking out the play areas for the children. And the children were playing basically along with us. So it had to be thrown out. So you have to be, that's why they have to film now in most places, or you can ask for it to be filmed, especially if it's heading to a legal case, from all angles. So you can see the expressions of the people that are doing the interviewing and what the child's responding like. See if you can pick up on it and that was strange or odd. Let's see. Are you positive vibes? Has Paris gone? Are you still there, Paris? So yeah, so you really have to question everything and really go into it. You owe it to yourself, because why people want to believe something that's doubtful, I don't know. I've never worked that out. I'd rather know the truth than convince myself of a lie, because it sounds better to me. I've always said that. Better to oh, you're still here? Thought you'd run away. Thought, where's Paris run away to? But yet, so always make sure you question everything, because you owe it to yourself. Well, I don't mean go ridiculously around in circles, but you can usually find that something that sounds totally convincing. You look at it from another side, another direction, you think, no, it's not as convincing as all that. I mean, there are some genuine stuff out there that does. You can't answer, so you just have to leave it as it is. That's all I can say about that. But anyone want me to get onto any subjects? Any more subjects? Because that's sort of like the main one, isn't it? And I get bored talking about the satanic panic. I think it's one of those things that passes, and then wait 15 years, it will happen again. So it just all comes in 15-year circles all the time. Anyone want to join in, just let me know. Because I'm running out of things to talk about. And I feel like I start slagging off other creators all the time. And I think, oh, do I really want to be doing that? Oh, wait, well, it's a good one. Wild Man. When I met him, he was okay when I met him. He was laid back, very, very laid back. I walked in the room to be interviewed. This is about 2 years ago. And Sean, he's absolutely, but the first thing that hit me about Sean was how tall he is. He's extremely tall. And actually, you know, when you're, this is the strange thing about Sean as well. When you look at him on camera, he looks like he's got, his skin isn't all that good. Actually, his skin, that's what strikes you as well. He's got absolutely perfect skin when you see him in real life, which I was jealous about. But Wildman was sitting there with his cans of lager. We were waiting to go into, I had to doll myself up, because you wear different makeup for studio lights than what you do if you go out in the street. So anyway, we were talking. I can't really remember what we were talking about. Oh, I started talking about him. He had tooth marks on his fist. But yeah, he was all right. I found him easier to get on with, as I've said before, than Sean. And in the room, I say he's one of those strange characters that he can say something and somehow I didn't get offended by it, where if someone else said it, I'd be offended by it. For somehow I just accepted it of him. It was strange. But yeah, he was fine with me, but I never seen him in his bad days, did I? And that's a different thing. Let's see. The Freedom Convoy, is that the thing that that Casey Hopkins was giving out about they stopped the crowdfunding? I don't know much about it. I haven't actually looked at it much. Let's see. Oh, thank you, TG. Who's my favourite podcaster? Oh, I'd say the two that are the, well, you've got to say Joe Rogan, haven't you? I mean, Joe Rogan was up there at the top of podcasts, and I think he is really good. James English is very good, but I'm not into the subject matter that he does. I'm just not into subject matter, but he is really, really good at what he does. He knows when to hold back. He knows when to question someone, and he knows how to keep he knows the structure of an interview. He does know how to do it professionally. He's good. I'm trying to think of someone else. And then you get see, that's the big question. If you're not interested in the subject matter, that doesn't mean that they're a bad podcaster. It just means that that's not your thing that you go for. But there's other people out there that you think they are good at it. They're just not big enough. But I'd say it's got to be. I mean, the top one has got to be Joe Rogan, hasn't it? I don't like those. Well, they're good at it, but I've got a gripe against them. Those, what was it? True Geordie, who, when Sean was on there slagging me off, I thought, cheek, yeah. Cheek, how dare you? How dare you do that? I got on to them about that and said, hey, you, give me the right to reply. Of course, you never get it, do you? You never get it. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. As I say to you, I don't know much about them. All that I heard was Thingo kicking off about it, Casey Hopkins. And Casey Hopkins was going on about weeing on toilet seats. Not toilets, when you're on the toilet, weeing on the hinges of the toilet seats. So she must be talking about when men go. See, what women forget is that with men, the stream can come out too. You need a bowl, a huge bowl like that, because sometimes when a man urinates, you can have one stream going that way and another stream going in completely the other direction, and that's what causes it. It's not that men can't aim right; it doesn't come out straight. It comes out in two different ones, and then it plats together. But yeah, that's why men do that. It's not just one jet that comes out all the time. That's an interesting topic. See, you've learned something now, ladies, haven't you? You've learned something now. That's why I meant can't aim straight. Oh, Joe Rogan can be extremely controversial in some of the things he goes on about. He can be, but he's got caught up in this cancel culture now, hasn't he? Oh yeah. I got my Florida. I should have actually brought it up and showed you, but it means switching off all the lights so you can see it. Yeah, I got it. It's lovely. Oh, I got mine. There's no more left from Gemphoria. It's Gemphoria on the television and on the internet. And it's one of these shows where if you're not watching at that time, you miss it. And I just logged on at the right time and got one. But some of their stuff, it drives you mad. They have some beautiful stuff, and it just goes so quick you don't have a chance. Hello, Claire. So yeah, it's lovely. The one I got was really nice because I was saying, oh, I better get one that's all green because whenever I buy fluorite jewelry, it's always comes out mainly green with a bit of purple. Call it rainbow fluorite, but this has actually got beautiful purple, white, and you don't usually see the white, purple, and green, but in different shades, and it's all zigzag. It's gorgeous. So made up with it. Oh, Billy and Joe. Yeah, Billy's good, but he can get a bit nervous at times when he's in. But he said that himself when he's interviewing someone that he doesn't really know or he's not sure of. Oh, wait a minute. I looked at the silver flower god you bought, and it is a gen deity. And I tried to post the article linked, but YouTube deleted it because. Oh yeah, if you put a, let me warn. People always accuse me of deleting comments. A lot. If you put a link in a comment, it won't come through. YouTube will block it, and that's just I get that much abuse. It stops certain things coming through. But I looked that up. Oh, thanks for that. Because I was wondering what that was. I knew it was something paganish, and I thought, there we go. Let's see. Oh yeah, salt lamp. Do you know what? I had two of them. And I think it's better to get the one, that's like a tower. I got one where it's a basket where you put big chunks of the rock salt, Himalayan rock salt in there. Not a wise idea, because unless you use it all the time, it starts melting, doesn't it? Absorbs the thing out, and it blew up when it switched it on. I couldn't use it again. It was going mad. So I think it's better to get the big ones, isn't it? And take the thing out when you're not using it, the salt off the top of the thing, so it doesn't melt onto the elements. Whereas with mine, I just left it there and buggered it up. Suppose I could fix it, but I haven't got round to it. Let's see. Well, you see, what annoyed me about them, and this is what got me about True Geordie, is when Show was on there, this was just after Daddy Gate kicked off, and he was calling me the hermaphrodite troll, and all this. And I was thinking, wait a minute, they made it obvious as me they were talking. They were trying to be clever by not actually mentioning my name. They never got in contact with me to ask my version of events. And but they made it obvious because they showed clips from the show. I know the big one, I don't know what the name. I know the little one's called Lawrence, but the big fella, the one that cries that he's the victim of bullying because he was found out being a dirty ticket. And he was, he's a big man, he's soft, he's got, and I thought, now you're doing this to me. And he went at one point, he said, "What's a hermaphrodite?" And Sean knows that you don't use that. I mean, I don't mind, but I think it's easier to use the term hermaphrodite. But as I explained to him in the interview he did with me, I said it's considered an offensive term now. But that usually happens. Everything ends up being considered an offensive term. But the Lawrence fella turned around and whispered it. And I thought, you're making out that it's an embarrassing secret now that you have to whisper it. So that annoyed me. So I got right on to them, and I got on sponsors and said, "Look," I'm not having this. I said, they haven't even gave me the right to respond, and they've never responded. Didn't want to know. So that annoyed me. They could have at least said, "Well, let's hear your version," or even contact me and say, "Can I hear your version?" And you're talking about they're a massive podcast. And people worked out it was me, and I got all kinds of flack after that. So I'll never, if I ever met that one of them, I tell you now, I'd have words with them about that, because literally they go on about bullying, or the big one does, just as I say, because he was found out being a dirty ticket, right? And I'd like to say to him, "So you did that to me." And I was a tiny little podcaster at the time. Well, not podcast, tiny little YouTuber at the time. And said, I got a hell of a lot of flack from that. And you didn't. I never get the right to respond. Never do when people slag me off. But but again, they're successful. They're doing something they do. I don't understand that thing about those I see people with spanners all over the place. And then people say, "Ooh, they did this, they did that." Oh God, no, I don't classify all the same. It's like I've always said, easily 90%, easily 90% of the abuse I get and Sean gets is off Scottish people. Now it'd be easy for me to turn around and say, "Oh my God, all Scots, I'm never going to Scotland. They hate intersex people. Oh, I wouldn't be safe there." But I know damn well the vast majority of Scottish people aren't like that. It's just that it's a small little place on the internet, a very small little place. They've decided they don't like me, and so to come on to that. And I'm not saying that all of them don't like me because I'm intersex. I'm not saying that. But they don't like me because I can be mouthy at times and upset people by being mouthy. But what they'll do, they'll revert to calling me for something I can't help. I mean, I can't help that the way I was born, and it's like, keep off that. You can slag me off, call me all the horrible things, which some people do. They slag me off, call me all the horrible things going, but they don't refer to that, which I think makes them a really good person, a very, very good person. Because I say, if you're not bigoted in your mindset, you can't come out with it. You couldn't. I've always said this: a drunken bigot, a stone bigot is still a bigot, because it wouldn't come into your head. Like people with learning difficulties, they say, "Oh, well, they got no." They're still a bigot if they say it. You can't come down as hard on them, but it's life. You just have to learn to deal with it. That's it. Just have to learn to deal with it. But yeah, you never judge you never condemn a nation because of a few people. And as I say, because YouTube, it's a little community that comes along, so it can look really intense, and these people all come from the one place. But where the fact is, they're a tiny minority because you're a tiny person on the internet. Actually, I'm going to tell you something now, right? I think that Georgie accent is sexy. I do. I always thought that. Oh, why no Paris? Paris just told me what it is. That I'll have to do that sometime. I will. I have to start nominating people. Anyway, how are you doing, Paris? Are you keeping okay in yourself, other than attacking trees? It must be great living on a boat. You know what? That sounds so exciting. I mean, I'd be able to put up with it. In truth, I'd be able to put up with it for a while, and then I'd be like, "Oh, good God," because you have to go and get gas and everything, don't you? And remember that time when you were washed out, when the river overflowed? That looked absolutely horrendous. Well, a lot of the time, what I do is I used to I don't block people as much as I used to, but at first I used to say, get lost. God, no, no, block. Then when I stopped being so eager about blocking people was when I blocked a couple of people by mistake. And trying to unblock them is an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Sometimes I put off making comments on your videos because of this is it. They'll go at the people. Tell you who gets that, Jacks. Jacks, who they're always saying is me, but thankfully came on last week at the same time I was talking. I was commenting as I was talking. Shows you that's not me. Jacks gets it like hell. Will just stick up for me, and next thing, but you just see this line like that. But you see, the problem with hi, Rambe. The problem with YouTube as well. Not the way people say, "Oh, I never delete comments." You've got to be very, very careful with that, because if you have really offensive comments being put on under your videos, they can pull you for it. They can actually YouTube. It can go against you and pull you for it. You're responsible for your channel, and that's why this all blew up. With oh, you're getting fed up with boat life, Paris. So I said I couldn't imagine doing it all the time, because you're sort of like it's locked there, isn't it? But it must be lovely in the summer. I'd imagine it would be ideal in the summer that you've got, you're more or less out in the open like that. But imagine it'd be pretty hard to get through in the winter. Very hard to get through in the winter. Yeah, this is what happened with Sean Atwood, wasn't it? And I told him, I remember when the first time he interviewed me, before I went into the room to do the interview, I said, you okay with me mentioning names? I said, look, I can show you all, because I often show him documentation before he even interviewed me to show that the names that was mentioned, and I had evidence. I wasn't just picking them out of the sky. And he never asked to see that evidence. And I always thought that was very strange. I thought, why isn't he asked to see the evidence? So once we were walking in, I said, you're all right. And he laughed and he went, it won't be me. It won't be me that gets in trouble. And I just went, and thought in my head, little do you know, mate, you will get in trouble. You've got to understand, and I've did a video ages ago, but I haven't got up anymore talking about this, and be wary, people, especially if you've got a YouTube channel or any social media. It's not, well, the person who says it can be get in trouble, but it's who broadcasts it being said, or an allegation that's slanderous. That's who gets in trouble. That's who's liable. So if that's, and that actually happened, my prediction, well, it wasn't a prediction, it was a warning. And I said to Sean after the show, I said, you have to be careful, Sean. I said, because if someone blades something out against someone and they decide to take legal action, I said, it's you they'll come after. I said as well, because it's your platform, you're putting it out there. Of course, Sean, this is Sean. Everything you tell him, this is Sean. He's got his little narrative, never learns. And what happened was, of course, with Sonia Poulton. Sonia Poulton said something which Sean more or less set up the scenario for it to say it. And then, woof, everything went wild, everything went mad. But he could have found himself in court if he hadn't made an apology. So, and if he hadn't made that apology, guess what? He would have walked away. Not what happened was, it just didn't go the way the person who complained wanted it to go. Let's put it that way. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Well, babe, 1951. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. You leave some lovely comments for me on me Twitter. I always like to see you commenting on me Twitter. Oh, yeah, the statue of Prospero and Ariel. Oh, wait a minute. Where have I gone? We've gone. We've gone. Here we are. Claire. Someone attacked the statue at the BBC with a hammer. Yep. The Prospero with Ariel from The Tempest. Well, it's because the fella who did it, isn't he? He was doing things to his daughter and the family dog. And why the BBC decided to keep it up there, I don't know. Why? I haven't got a clue. But again, that's the way the BBC works, isn't it? Did he? John Peel married? I didn't know that. I know it didn't Elvis say. Michael, who's this? Wait a minute, let's get my head on. Couldn't see them, Michael. I'm sorry. Are you there, Michael?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's gone wrong in my end. I'll come back in a minute. All the best.
Okay. I think what is, if you, the boat thing, some people really love it, don't they? They absolutely love it. It's like I couldn't be bothered living in a caravan either. I think it's all right for a short time. Then it's like, I don't think it will be legal in America. It's always higher than us, isn't it? The legal age, but wasn't Priscilla Presley 14 when Elvis married her? God, when you think of it, years ago, be bleeding 12 and 13, wouldn't it? Well, that's because then, of course, back centuries ago, people didn't live as long, did they? So they thought you might as well get going as early as you can. Oh yeah, they tried to, but they do really need to remove that statue. It's not so much the statue wouldn't be disturbing in itself, only for the history of the person that built it, that made it. You know, that's so they should have took that down straight away. And Ariel's a spirit of the air. But again, Shakespeare keeps on calling him Chick, or Prospero keeps on calling him Chick in the play, the Tempest. That's where he comes from. And so that gives you the image of a little boy. But why he has to be naked, I don't know. Boat life sounds great. My mother-in-law likes it. It's very expensive rent-wise down south in England. It might have to be an option. But I say it must be lovely in the summer though. I'd imagine that would be absolutely, if you've got a lovely summer, must be absolutely wonderful. But again, Paris, is it because you're basically on there on your own with the dog? Do you think if you had someone else in there, it would be more tolerable? Because everything's on you, isn't it? If anything goes wrong, you've got to sort it out. That most probably makes it harder. Yeah, I'd imagine it will be because it's like when, oh, do you know, this is uncomfortable, this cushion. Do you know, I noticed in the last one I did, I kept on scratching myself and touching my face. I had an itchy nose for some reason. I'm trying not to do it now. Yeah, it's yeah, there will be all kinds of expense involved that you wouldn't expect. It's like everything, isn't it? You always find something like you've got to spend out on. It's like this bleeding house. I mean, you go to do one job or you think, oh, I'll decorate this room. You start decorating it and then you uncover another job that needs to be done. And you think, oh, it just never ends. The job I'm trying to do, the living room and the hall. And I hate doing the hall because at the top of the stairs it goes right up. Drives me mad. You have to get one of those special ladders, you know, where they go on the stairs. And it turns around like this. That's what I was saying. Paris, in the winter, it must be pretty bleak. It must be awful in the winter because it's like even living by the sea in the winter can be horrible. Because where my mama lived, or where my mama came from, Greystones, beautiful place in the summer. Absolutely gorgeous Greystones in summer. 2 bays they've got, stunning. One of them's just pure blue. It's absolutely stunning. But in the winter, whoa, completely different story. Completely different story. Oh, oh God, yeah, I love Shakespeare. Absolutely adore him. Adore his plays. In Prescott. That would be interesting. I have to look out for that, Derek. But yeah, I do love Shakespeare. I think what is you'd know if it was sinking, wouldn't you? If a boat started sinking, you'd wake up to it before it actually got serious. Let's see. The trolls like coming in, don't they? It's sad because they just get blocked. Oh, I've got rid of them, don't worry. If anyone sees this person, it's a bigot. It's a horrible bigot. Do you know who that is, Paris? If you got any ideas? I've got a suspicion who it is. Well, they say, Claire, is it? Are they Satanists? I mean, it's easy to say the Satanists, are they? I mean, I've seen some of these claims. It's like when you look into, you think, oh, who was? Oh God, someone. Oh, Jesus. Heard it all now. Someone on YouTube, on Facebook, sorry, she was going on. And she suddenly, I thought she was joking at first. Bessie White, you know, from the Golden Girls, who's not long time. Bessie White is a Satanist. And she did, know what she used as her evidence? An advert Bessie White did with a pair of fangs, fake fangs, obviously fake fangs, and a cloak on, looking like a vampire, an advert for something that was just a joke. And she said, there we are, she's a Satanist. And when I realised she was I said, you're kidding me. I said, you think that's evidence? I said, she goes on television doing an advert with fake fangs on, and you're saying that that means she's a Satanist. Yeah, she's a Satanist. And she was saying that she was related to this one, that one, that she isn't related to. She was never related to. And it was like, that's how ridiculous it is. And so I just told her straight, I mean, I can't be bothered. I tell her straight, that you need help, love. Get out your house, get off the internet. And this is what I say to people. I've seen this happening in the past. Doom treaders. You'll see people either on, usually it's Facebook, I see it happening on Twitter, and they literally scan the internet. Everything they put through is a horror story or something horrible or something nasty or something bad. And it's like, when you're going to put something happy up, something positive up, it's like the whole life just wants to confirm that the world is a horrible place. The whole thing is, I want to confirm to myself and others that the world is a nasty, horrible place, because they're in a horrible, nasty place in themselves, in their own head. That's what they're looking for, to confirm it. If you're feeling depressed, don't go looking for things that confirm that you've got a reason to be depressed. Look for things that might give you hope that things aren't as bad, or they may not be as bad as you think they are. So this is what happens. So you have to be careful when people make these claims. Remember, there used to be one on Twitter, and she was all right, actually, most of the time. But she started tweeting out these pictures, look, Satanists, the signs of the Satanists. And one of them was this picture of two children. And know how children make stars, cut out stars and put them up on the room? Satanists look at the pentagrams. Satanists, because a couple of them were with the 2 points sticking up, which is supposed to be the satanic pentagram, isn't it? And it was like, how pathetic. And then I said to her, I pulled her up about it. And I said, oh, come on. I said, don't be so pathetic. And so she went, look, here we are. Look at this one of these people in a circle and all this. I said, yeah, it's a performance. And what they can't explain is, if these Satanists are hiding themselves and don't want to be found, why are they putting out things there where they can be found? Why? That's the big one that gets me. Oh, yeah. It comes in starting to, it's just some sad person who's most probably banging one off now, thinking about me in Paris. That's what it usually boils down to. You see. Here we are. Rob has put something in. Evening, Anne, evening, Rob. All this celebrity Satanist stuff dates back to Jane Mansfield joining LaVey's. Oh, did she? Jane Mansfield? I didn't know that. Who didn't even believe in Satan or God. Hey, do you remember LaVey? Doesn't he look like Sean Atwood? I told Sean that he went mad. Well, he did go mad, but I think he found it funny. But Sean Atwood, put a little goatee on Sean Atwood, and he looks like LaVey, doesn't he? But I didn't know Jane Mansfield did that. And when you were in the police, who was that Z-list Liverpool celeb who used to turn up so often and pay lip service to the officers? Oh, God, I can't remember. Oh, Pete Price. The chief constable's bitch, as they used to call him. Well, he had two names, the chief constable's bitch And Uniform Whore Price, that's what the police called him. Oh, we thought the police loved him. He still does. Thought the police. People who don't know, Pete Price is was on a radio station, Radio City, and was allegedly a comedian, though I never found anything funny about him, in the 80s. And gay, openly gay. Well, he couldn't hide it, actually, but he had some people loved him on his radio show, but some people can't stand him because he was very, very arrogant. Very arrogant he could be. But he had this thing that he was obsessed with the Mayside police, loved the police. And I could say a lot about Pete Price, and what happened was he got me right in the crap. When I first started speaking out, I told him something. And this is before it went public. And let's just put it this way. A couple of days later, I'm dragged into, thank God this chief detective liked me. He said, hey, you in here. And so I knew something was going on. So he said, he told me to go. So he said, you've been talking to a Uniform Whore Price, haven't you? So I said, what do you mean? And I was, I wasn't confirming it or denying it, so I don't know what you mean. Well, he said, guess who knows about it? So I said, Bernard O'Connell, the chief constable. So he said, yeah. And I thought, oh, thanks for telling me that. And so he said, you bleeding idiot. He said, look, he said, you're being watched now. He said, you're being watched. He said, just be very, very careful. So I never forgave Pete Price for that. Never forgave him for that. And he said something. Now he'll deny this. He's phoned me up. Actually, he was the one that phoned me up. Right? He'll deny all this, but he phoned me up. And he said at one point, he said, "Well, do you want me to have a word with Bernard? No, Bernard Hogan. And I thought, wait a minute, what's going on here? So I said, no. I said, no. I said, no. I said, don't. And he said, he said, I'm very good friends with him, if you know what I mean. Now, it's only one way you can take that he had influence over the chiefs of the force. And what have I always said about what's going on in Liverpool? There's people in the entertainment industry, radio, the Liverpool Echo, Solicitor, who have influence over the force. And this happens in all cities. And literally, Satan Crown's are cuffed up now. Let me just make one thing clear. I have never heard any allegations against Pete Price himself. Never. I'd love to say I did. I've heard of another radio presenter who people wouldn't think of, who I have heard about, who again was very much in with the police, Mayside police, but I never specifically heard anything about him. But I said to him once, I said, do you know what, Peter? Because I was really fed up with him and had enough of him. I said, do you know what, Peter? Do you know if you didn't have that radio show, I said, they wouldn't give you that. They wouldn't give you a second thought. Oh, you used to get them in. Oh, yeah, Peter and all this business sucking up to him, right? Because he had that show and it was popular. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. So I've got nothing but contempt for that man. So thank you for giving me something to talk about, Derek. I was struggling for something to think of talking about then. But yeah, not a nice. I'd love to meet him. He does say one of the clubs, doesn't he? I'd love to go down there and say, hey, look into this camera and explain what you did, you little. Oh, he could have got me in terrible trouble. I say, did he go? I don't know, but it seems strange that chief detective knew what it said. I actually, I wouldn't say I was friends with Pete Baines, but I knew when he was in Probe Records. There's I don't know whether it's still there. It must be. He used to own a place called Probe Records downtown. You wouldn't think it was a little crappy place, it is. But when we were kids or little teenagers, used to go down there to see Pete Baines. He's the one from Dead or Alive, he spin me round. And before he got famous, he used to have these really outlandish hairstyles and really very outlandish. And it was strange seeing his wife because oh yeah, people don't realise he had a wife. His wife used to be dressed up the same. And he used to wear, at sometimes he'd wear these black contact lenses, but that covered the whole eye, which was unusual then to see anyone like that. But what I remember of him, he was very arrogant, very, very arrogant, and very up his own importance. But other than that, I think it was a terrible shame what happened to him. It totally ruined his face eventually. If he'd stopped, remember when he was on Celebrity Big Brother? That's when he looked his best. If he'd stopped there, he would have been all right. But then he wanted to look like a Bratz doll. Look, it looks all right on a Bratz doll, but it doesn't look all right on a human. It looks like someone's melted a Bratz doll when you put it on a human. They don't realise that. Looks okay on a doll. It's like when you see them with these duck lips. I can't believe that you can't see that. That looks absolutely horrendous. Big duck lips flapping away. But seems to be something they like. Pete Waterman. Oh, good God. Shall I tell you something about that, Martin? Right. Oh, this is embarrassing. Years ago, Pete Waterman was in the bistro at the Everyman Theatre. And at the time, I was doing a little stint there. And we had to go, me and this work colleague I had, we had to go down to find someone. I don't know who we had to go look for, but we said, oh, we've got to find this person and bring them back into the theatre they needed. So we were walking down. All that I seen was these cameras. God, this is embarrassing. I've noticed these cameras walking past, and so I said, where is she? Where is she? Meaning my work colleague that we were looking for. Where is she? And I looked and saw the camera and went, oh. I said, no, carry on, carry on. And he whispered, carry on. So I thought, the filming. Jeez, I hope this never saves us if it's out there. And I walked in, and then I saw, do you remember Sonia, the singer Sonia? Let me get straight. I've got nothing against Sonia. I mean, she sounds like a lovely, I've never met her, sounds like a lovely young woman. But Pete Waterman and her were in there sitting at a table. And I just smiled and hi to the two of them. And then we couldn't find a work colleague, so we walked out again. And it wasn't until about an hour later I said, oh, holy mother of God, I said, I went in there, didn't I, to that camera? I said, walk past that camera, saying, did it sound like I was excited? Where is she? Where is she? I said, they'll think I was talking about Sonia. Now, I say, lovely girl, but it wasn't cool. You didn't have street. It was sort of like Sonia, being a fan of Sonia wasn't street cred. And I thought, my God, that's when she was at the height of her career. I thought, oh, people, if that gets out there, people would think I was looking for Sonia all excitedly. Oh, Sonia's about, I must see Sonia. Oh, I nearly died. Nearly died with embarrassment when I realised what I'd done. But I've never seen it, but it might be out there somewhere. While Blast from the Past, I went to the Hitman and a roadshow back in the late 80s. Loved Pete Waterman. Oh, he was very on the ball. He was very astute. See, Pete Burns was fascinating. But I say the only time I knew him was when I was a kid and going into probe records, and it was like, oh, wow. This find them absolutely fascinating. But I say he could be an arrogant thing when he started. Doubt he would have ever remembered me. But I remember Boy George accused him of Pete Burns of copying him. No. Do you remember Boy George had the when he had the sorts of plaits? I'd say plaits more than dreads. He called them plaits, but he called them dreads, but they were more plaits. And he wore that big hat, big huge red hat. Pete Burns had that style a couple of years before, or even three. Do you know what? This bleeding thing, place is alive. It is. This shawl I've got is shedding, and it's starting to. This thing, they're starting to shed, and I'm getting bits flying past my face. Anyway, Pete Burns was doing that before Boy George was. But Boy George, they couldn't stand each other at first, could they? But then they eventually made friends with each other. But it's like I remember Boy George said something very, very interesting about Pete Burns, which was true. They asked Pete. They asked Boy George about going around and Pete Burns, and he said the problem with Pete Burns was he couldn't hide who he was because he'd done so much of that stuff to his face. Pete Burns could not hide himself when he went out. Everyone knew who he was. It'd be like Michael Jackson. But as Boy George said, all that he has to do is take his makeup off, and no one will notice him. Which you wouldn't. You'd walk past Boy George if you didn't see him with his makeup on. See, where's it? This one. I must have watched that. See, what I didn't like about him on Celebrity Big Brother is he showed his bullying side. I mean, who was that young Jordan? Was it? Was that her name, Jordan? Look, she was a young girl. Young girls can be touchy little things, but he really did bully her, and it was ugly to watch. And I thought, no, as I was watching, I thought you're showing your really ugly side now doing that. She didn't deserve that. Look, young girls, young boys, they say silly things. It comes with it. You have to take it. You have to come with it. Comes with the age range, and he did kick into it, and I thought he gave an ugly version of himself doing that of his personality. Oh, he adored his mother. He absolutely adored his mother. She used to come to concerts because I went to see a couple of his concerts when he was on the Royal Court. This was when in his early days, and his mother would go along, and she wasn't young, his mother. Well, Purple, this is the legend of. It's a strange legend to have because actually he's what you call a map attracted to young people. But I've never met him. But there's people like you get like think of Darren. Oh, I'm reckons that Purple was in his mama's house. Rubbish. Don't believe a word to it. A lot of people do. Yeah, these gangsters saying, not saying you're not telling the truth, Derek, but some of these gangster people, gangsters, don't make me laugh. Some of these bad boys and all that claim, oh yeah, I met Aki. Very few of them ever did. It seems to be trendy to say you knew Aki. I mean, he's the golden one. If anyone can get him to interview him, he's the catch, isn't it? But he keeps his head down, keeps his head low. And for people who don't know, you can actually get if you put in Purple Aki, aka, you can find it about him. But I wasn't around when I was down south when the legend about him started being created. But when it came back, I heard all about him. Oh, there's this fella called Purple Aki. I believe that Billy Moore did meet him when Billy Moore was a very young teenager because Billy Moore doesn't tell lies, and he said he met him briefly and ran for his life because he's a big man, Purple, big man. Yeah, Jodie Marsh. Yeah, I thought it was ugly the way I mean, there was no need for the way he treated her. I felt awful sorry for that young woman. I mean, all right, young people say things. They do. They say things, and he just went right for it. Juggler, and I thought, no, that's not nice what you do. Oh, Lily Savage. Do you know, never saw him as Lily Savage. Never saw him as Lily Savage. You just think he was funny, though. Oh, thank you, Michelson, however you pronounce it. Let's see. Well, this is it. You hear about, but no one ever actually. It's very rare that anyone sees him, isn't it? That's why he's become like this mystery. But really, and this is what I'll agree with Darren Gion. People are idolizing or making a mythical a mythical person out of someone that really likes young boys. You know what I'm saying? And so Darren's right when he says that. It is odd that he's got this like legendary thing about him and people don't focus in. Though there's one where someone's chasing him, isn't it, in Liverpool? They're throwing fireworks at him. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, that it isn't the way I see it. But yeah, he'd be the one that if Sean Atwood or James English could get hold of it to do an interview, it would be the golden interview, be the crowd puller. Oh yeah, Sean's always putting out calls there. And it's telling, isn't it, Bobby? Right? You live in Liverpool and you've never bumped into him, right? But if Sean put it out there, you know, come forward, and he was seeing all these people that claim on his show to have seen him and met him, he'd have no problem getting the message to him. But no one ever seems to be able to locate him, was he? Do they? Perhaps was a bogeyman 30 years when I was at school. People used to talk about him then. Oh, yeah, yeah. People always say it was a big thing in the 80s, wasn't it? In the 90s. That's all you heard about. He was like, for some reason, it became like a mystery. He used to go around feeling young men's biceps and stuff, but he's big, Aki. So they couldn't very well fight back. But they used to say he got sexually aroused when he was doing it. And there's something that he did, which I won't go into, in prison once. He got apparently, there was a chair, you know those chairs with the holes between the top, and he said to some lad, I bet you can't fit yourself in there. And so the lad thinking, oh yeah, put himself in it, and of course Aki had him where he wants him. So they say, I don't know how true that is, but that's one of the things that go on about, because the lad got stuck in the chain. That gave Aki, but Aki didn't need to. I mean, he's that big and strong. He could have just held anyone down he wanted to. They would have found it hard to struggle against him. But yet, we have our little legends on Liverpool of people, certain people, and our little ghosty stories. Though I've never seen any, but only in that The View. My God, when I worked at The View, there was something weird there saying last week on the stairs. Let's see. No one wanted that fella. Disappeared quick, didn't he? Ran away. Must have been intimidated by me. You'll have to come on sometime, Pat, and we'll have a good chin wag. You will. Apparently, Papes used to get young lads pull a blade out and say slash husband. I don't know. I hadn't heard that about him. Maybe he did. I didn't hear that specifically about him. But yeah, it's strange what can become a legendary figure. Charles Bronson could be getting out this year. Don't know. I haven't got a clue. I mean, he's another one that's got legendary status, hasn't he? I think if he gets out, he's going to be in great, great demand. He wants to actually start saying, right, put money in my hand. This is what I can't get. You know, these podcasters, and you've got someone like that. I mean, if I was, say that I was Charles Bronson or I was Pay Blackie, thank God I'm not, but say that I was. If I came out, say, right, get the cash on the one with the biggest lump of money on the table, I'll do your podcast with you. That's what would be best happening. Oh, oh God, yes, from my days. I remember the 70s. I remember that. It's a hell of a lot better. I mean, Liverpool really in the 70s was, you go downtown to the city centre and it was just It was parts of it were a dust hole. They were. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Dirty. This what amused me. Oh, once proud Liverpool, which you say the old fogies going on about years ago. Oh, once proud Liverpool. So you once proud Liverpool with your slums and spitting in the street, and go areas and bombed out places. No, it's much better now. Much better. What it was, and this is the thing, it started turning round. Actually, the ones, if I remember rightly, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure it was the Lib Dems, though I'm no fan of the Lib Dems. The Lib Dems were the one that kick-started the regeneration, if I remember. They started it. And then Labour got in and they took over it. But this Europe, we benefited a lot from Europe. But now, oh God, when you go downtown now, it's a completely different place. It's stunning town. Where it was really it depended where you were. It was a horrible place to be. You had to be careful where you went to as well. But now, everything with Liverpool One and all that, the regeneration, and we've got the IMAX cinema. We've got everything now. It's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But years ago, it wasn't. So when they go on this Once Proud Liverpool, my backside, there were bleeding slums and everything all over the place. Let's see. I don't know. It might be part of Bronson Street because I don't think they can actually. There's no law that stops them, is there? They can't put conditions on them like that. As far as I understand, they can't unless there's something come forward. But they can't tell them not to, as far as I know. Because this thing, you're not supposed to benefit from the proceeds of a crime, are you? Which is not always true. Look what happened to Mary Bell, who murdered those young boys when she was a child. She profited, didn't she? She got 50k. No, don't remember that, but I remember the 70s with this is what people forget. And believe me, I'm no fan of Thatcher. I'm certainly no fan of Thatcher. I'm not a Tory by any stretch of the imagination. But I remember the strikes, the union strikes of the 70s, and they were no fun. And people forget that. And that's how the Tories got in. Because there were bodies waiting to be buried. Everyone was on strike. You couldn't get milk, you couldn't get sugar, you couldn't get bread. Oh, it was horrendous. Then the strikes, the gas and electric strikes. It was horrendous. The unions literally had the country to ransom, and they forget that. And you hear people, they've had this with union people because I've been in unions in my working life, and you so say, don't give me this crap that the union should be given more. They had too many powers taken away from them, but they needed some powers taken away from them for the simple reason they were absolutely holding the country to ransom. And that was in the 70s that became evidence, and people were fed up with it. I mean, they've got the right to strike, yeah, but not what they were doing. They got too much where they were bringing the country to a halt. And when you've got bodies that can't be buried, loved ones waiting to be buried, something seriously wrong. And that's what got the Tories in, because Margaret Thatcher said, right, we're going to get a handle on this, and gave them the excuse. The unions haven't got enough powers now, but at the same time, they walked right into it. The people were fed up with it. They were fed up. So that's the truth about it. You don't hear that now. You don't hear about these strikes now. You don't hear about it, but it was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. You can get see everywhere. I think though, everywhere. I've never been anywhere where people have been horrible. I've never been there with all the people. I'd say the only everywhere thinks, and this is nothing. Everywhere thinks that they're the best, don't they? You'll hear Yorkshire people saying that they're the friendliest, they're the best. You'll hear Brummies saying they're the best, they're the friendliest. Everyone thinks they're the friendliest, don't they? Every city does. I think what it is, we're more, you can't get, I mean, we've known people to have nasty, you've got to be truthful. Some people have had nasty experiences, but in any big city, you'll have that. But what I found is that when you go down to London, and I had to train in London for my career for years, and I'd come up to Liverpool, and this, as I say, was in the 80s, 70s, 80s, late 70s and 80s, and I'd be come back up, and it used to be a nightmare because I'd say, in London, Richmond, you could get anywhere you wanted. You could get on the tube, you could get a bus, you could get where you wanted to be, you could get it there. When I kept on coming up to Liverpool, it's like, God, well, how do I get here? I've got to get here, I've got to get there. I could never, it was always a hassle trying to get from A to B, unless you were going straight down to the city centre. It was an absolute hassle. And I still find that now. London, you can get about it much, much better. But the only difference with London and Liverpool, which is starkly different, in London, people don't exist when they're out in public. Even though there's so many people there, you can be the loneliest person in the world if you don't know anyone. Where in Liverpool, someone will always talk to you. You go up to someone and you can talk to them. But a lot of cities are like that. You go up and they'll talk outside London. But London seems to be particularly strange in that way, that you have to be careful who you're talking to. Or people aren't interested, just on their own business. You could fall down, most probably step over you. But again, there's lots I say. I remember my mum, she, used to say her favourite place she'd ever lived was Birmingham, because she was in the army and she went from Scotland, Paisley, and travelled all over the country. And maybe she wasn't too fond of Paisley because she got attacked there and bullied because they thought she was from the Highlands for some reason. She had beautiful strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes, and for some reason they thought she was from the Highlands, and they didn't like people from the Highlands. And when they found out she was a Catholic, she got trouble from some of them. But she used to always say if she was going to go to one place, she'd go to Birmingham, because she said he said even when the rations were on, she said no matter what, people were always looking after you, even though you weren't from Birmingham, and she wasn't. She was an Irish woman. She'd say they'd always have something to offer you, and they'd always be asking. They said you wouldn't have to ask for something. Are you okay? Are you okay for food? Are you okay for tea? Are you okay for this? She said they were always fed it. So she absolutely adored Birmingham. She said the best people in the world, she thought, was Birmingham, and she'd been around a lot. She loved them. And she used to go on. What did she say? She said, oh, but they used to eat cows all day. Don't know, didn't know that was a thing. And she said that she couldn't handle. But she said, oh, yeah, she loved Birmingham. Let's see. Oh, Brookside, I found that as boring as hell. I didn't like that at all. Boring, they were always whinging. It was nearly as bad as EastEnders, actually. I mean, EastEnders was worse, but now I don't know whether it's good I don't know. I suppose it was in certain ways. It was a representation. I mean, you could believe, Boys from the Black Stuff wasn't that. I've got that on DVD. That was something else, wasn't it? That is talking about the old Liverpool Boys from the Black Stuff, if you ever get to see it. That's where you get Gives a Job, isn't it? What was his name? Gives a Job. Oh, amazing series. That absolutely amazing. And there was a film a few years ago, and I can't remember the name of it. And that was really good, set in Liverpool. And the father in it, because somebody might be able to tell me the name of it. The father in it becomes an oh no, it wasn't tripe rob. It was cow's udder. It wasn't tripe rob that she was given. But what was the saying? Oh, yeah, this film, and he becomes a brown shirt, one of the fascists during the Second World War, the Mosley gang, and he throws a petrol bomb through the window, And it said he doesn't know his dose and then sets for life, if anyone can remember that. That has some scenes in it that just take me right back to the 70s. And that shows you what it was like in Liverpool then. If that was the First World War, the Second World War, that film was going on about. But yeah, I could see reflections of what was going on in the 70s. Still, they would take me back. But it's a wonderful film, that. Oh, if people want to go to Liverpool, the first place they've got to go to is Liverpool One. That's where all the shops are, and that's where the cinemas are, and it's all within range. That's the wonderful thing about Liverpool. You don't have to travel miles out. You'll find everything basically that you need to find in. You don't have to move out of the city centre because you've got the theatres, you've got the Empire, which is the big one where you see all the big shows, the spectacular shows. Then you've got the Liverpool Playhouse, which is more acting. You couldn't put a ballet on there. It's just the stage isn't big enough for a ballet or an opera. Then you've got the Everyman, which is that's produced some of the most famous actors in British history from the Everyman in Liverpool. A lot of them, that was the training ground. And you have, I say, everything's there, everything's within reach. That's the wonderful thing about it. That's what I like about it. So you don't have to go traveling miles and miles. And of course, if you're into the Beatles, Penny Lane and all that isn't far away. And my neck of the woods where I live around the area where Paul and John lived. So I'm always at some point walking where in the footsteps of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. So it's a hell of a lot to see. Oh, here we are, teacher. My nana couldn't be buried. This is it. Do you see? People forget this. People forget this. My nana couldn't be buried for 6 weeks. It was heartbreaking. I remember rubbish bags being piled up high. Yet, do you remember the maggots and the rats? Yeah, that was it. They weren't collecting the rubbish. It was people. It was horrendous. When people go on about, oh, it was awful, awful time. You never want to go back to that. Oh, the museum. Yeah, you've got the museum. It's great. But you know what they've destroyed, Derek? They totally destroyed it in my mind. It's the library, the Liverpool Library. And I worked at the for a short while. Excuse me. Liverpool Library, I don't know what the hell they got into their heads. But that used to be like a Harry Potter library. You know, there'd be all shelves with loads of books, and they've got some really rare books, priceless books there. But it'd be like going into Harry Potter land with all these books miles high and all this. Oh, wonderful it was. Wonderful. Anyway, you could be there all weeks just looking through the books. They decided to renovate it and it looks bleeding horrendous. When you look at it now, it looks like a upturned ice cream cone, but metal. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I was lucky enough to go in a room there because they were giving a talk on book writing, and I thought, well, I'll go and see because I work there. I'll go in there, and it was a room that's very rarely opened. God, everything was marble, solid. Because of course you're talking about the Empire days, or Liverpool was a big part of the Empire, wasn't it? These marble floors, solid marble columns, and everything, and these glass cases with these books. Now these books were huge, like dining tables. They were that big, huge old books, and we had the meeting in there. And I thought, my God, to keep this hidden from the public. I think it's open very rarely to the public, but rare. But they've got some very expensive, priceless some of the books in there. But wonderful place. But they've ruined it. They've totally destroyed. And when you go to the back of it, this is the other thing. People never get to see the back of it, which I did when I worked there. Oh, it's horrendous when you go to the back of it. You see the old, it looks like an old warehouse from the back. It's horrendous. Oh, you nearly out Cooper, the child recruiter's house. Well, they go on about the Beatles, but as I say, the Beatles it's a big boast, isn't it? The most famous band ever. I mean, it's something to boast about, and so you always get it. I mean, some people just they go on about the Beatles, but I mean, it's the greatest. It's down as the greatest band ever, group ever, isn't it? So I mean, it's a big boast to have. I've heard of that. I can't remember. I can't remember what it was, but I remember it. Do you know what? I haven't been on a ferry for years. I haven't been on a ferry for absolutely. Yeah, I know what the sad thing is. They've got these sea cats now. You know when you want to go out to Ireland, to Dublin, they have the sea cats, and they'll get over there dead quick. I used to remember as a kid when my mum would say, "Right, let's go over to Greystones to her birthplace," and we used to have to go on one of the ships. One of them was called the Munster. Oh, that was wonderful because you'd get on at night and remember it was all it'd be all lit up and you'd be getting on this ship at night. You go on the ship, and then all through the night you'd be traveling, and then in the morning you'd wake up, and the land would be in the distance. I used to love that, but now they don't have those big ships anymore. And it used to be better when it would go overnight, but it was a nightmare because you had to go from Holyhead, which thankfully I never did, but it happened to a couple of people know. It diverted to Holyhead. And getting from Holyhead back to Liverpool, I believe, is an absolute nightmare. The travel takes hours because you've got to change here, change there, change everywhere. But I used to love the old ships. I used to absolutely adore them. Oh yeah, this as far as I know, they still do. One of them always went. Yeah, the music festival. Yeah, one of them was cancelled, wasn't it? I'm sure they still have them on. There was one actually in uh, Camp Hill, or what we call Wootton Woods as well, for the anniversary of Sergeant Pepper's. Now I'm not far from there, but a good distance, but not. It's walking distance. Now I was going to go, and last minute I thought, no, there's going to be absolutely crowds there because it's not a huge area in the Camp Hill one, and it was absolutely thronging, and you could hear the music, bang, 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 even here. But yeah, and the sad thing is, the swimming pool, I don't know, it's Victorian or Edwardian swimming pool that Paul McCartney used to go and John Lennon used to go into, and I used to go to when I was a little kid. That's been closed down. You can get in there to see around it, but that's been closed down. And the little library, too many of them a bit, but the council's scared getting rid of them because they're iconic landmarks now. So to get rid of them would cause absolutely mayhem. But Joe Anson, the mayor who was arrested, he was trying to sell off a part of Camp Hill, or what we call Wootton Woods, the locals call Wootton Woods. He was trying to sell it off, and there was a big, big kickoff because that was actually pledged many, many years ago, for a long time ago, and the council weren't supposed to do, but that crook tried to do it, tried to sell it off. Oh, Albert Dock is nice. Now that used to be a terrible place. Albert Dock used to be horrendous. Oh yeah, Lark Lane is. See, there's some lovely place. Like another one that you won't see. It's off the beaten path. Cuckoo Lane, we call it. Now that it's amazing. You just walk up and you see all these. Now you'd walk right past it, you wouldn't know it existed. All that someone's got to do is turn up the correct street by accident usually, and it's like what I've walked into. It's just like Millionaires Row with these amazing, these strange. Some of them are all glass. I'm talking about huge houses, and some of them are all made from glass, and you'd never know they were there. You'd never know. Well, this said they did a lot. They did a lot, but I always said Anderson. Johansson was a nasty piece of work, very nasty piece of work. And I tell you now, I could say, I'm keeping my mouth shut, but I could tell a lot of things about Johansson and some of the people he associates with. I could say a lot of things, but I won't. A hell of a lot I could say. So yeah, so it's worth it. So it's something you always find something to do, and we have those. But thing is, when they have things like they had the princess, didn't they? The big mechanical spider thing, and then they had the giants walking through Liverpool, these huge giant puppets. But it gets too crowded. That's what I don't like about it. It just goes absolutely mad because people come from all over the place and all over Europe, and it gets too crowded. Oh, the Platzer. Oh, I know that, Crosby. I When I worked at the Liverpool's Central Library, it used to now and again be sent out there to their library, which isn't far from that at all. Oh, thank you, Liz. Yeah, so I used to actually work opposite the plaza, and of course, there's some lovely little cinemas in Liverpool, but they're held on by charity status, the little ones now, because of course you've got the Liverpool one, you've got the which is wonderful that we've got IMAX. You used to have to travel to Manchester if you wanted to see an IMAX film. I remember I had to go to Manchester to see Avatar when it came out because there was no IMAX in Liverpool at the time. Yeah, that's opposite. Used to walk past her all the time when it was there. Nice little library, but some of the people, that used to come to the library used to be like, "Don't push your luck, love. Don't push your luck." They used to be so rude. Some of them. Oh, the stuffed birds. They still have them in the Central Library. They have the taxidermy birds. They've seen them in one of the rooms. I know that. Creepy things. They have them in the pub, don't they? The Philharmonic. That's another famous landmark, the Philharmonic. Though to tell you the truth, I've never seen what's so amazing about the Philharmonic. Only that it's got this apparently ornate, which it is ornate, Art Deco gate on it, which is supposed to be something wonderful. And when you go into the male toilets, it's all marble. Everything's marble with these gold tone taps, but everything's solid marble when you go into the men's toilet. The men's toilet is lovely, but I've never seen where it's this great. And the Liverpool Philharmonic itself is over the road where you have the concerts. And that's supposed to be a heritage building. But when you look at it, you think, nah, it looks a bit plain. But because at the time it was built, it's considered something amazing. Oh, the 051, my God, you're taking me back then. Oh, that was seedy. The 051 used to have to go up all the steps, didn't you, to get to it? And it would be a little cinema. Went to see a few things there. So Prospero's books there. So what else did I see? I was seeing a couple of things I can't remember now. King Lear, I think, was another one. But it was a real seedy looking little cinema, wasn't it? Oh, the Beatles festivals are finished now. I thought I hadn't heard anything of them for a while. It's not as spectacular. They're nice, but they're not as spectacular. It's not as spectacular as people go on about the Philharmonic. So if you build your expectations up and then you go in, you think, actually, it's just a pub. It's a pub, that's all there is, with an ornate gate. And they go on about this gate being something spectacular. Could never see what was supposed to be so spectacular about it myself. Oh, the tunnels, the mole of Merseyside or whatever he was called, used to employ people to build all these tunnels. God knows what's under Liverpool. There's all sorts. See, what it is, I tell you what it is, Bobby, with Liverpool, right? Liverpool does have some absolutely belter of buildings, they do. historic buildings that you could never replicate now. It would cost you millions and millions and millions to replicate them. But they're usually hidden by some monstrosity that's built alongside them. And I've always said that you have to come upon it suddenly, or you have to know exactly where it is. But you'll get this really beautiful building from the Empire days, and beside is this faceless, horrible square thing that's getting your attention before you look at it. And so you can't, because all these buildings were built as well for you to look up. You're supposed to look up at them, like the Liverpool buildings. If you go at the right time, the iconic, the Liverpool buildings, the iconic ones with the liver beds on the top of them, and in between them, what's it called? Exchange flags. Exchange flags has been, it's in between them. Now, exchange flags, if you go on a summer's day at the right time when the sun is really strong and you walk behind that building where the sea is and you turn around and look at that building, you won't believe what you see. Those stones glow white. And this is what you've got to remember. They were built to be wonders, in other words, amazing. But don't forget, when they were built, they were all that was there. There wasn't the other rubbish that they've built since surrounding them, which takes your eye away from them. But if you look at exchange flags and you turn around on the right time of day when it's sunny, it's the most spectacular building you'll ever see. The stones glow white and shimmer. And so you're looking at this huge edifice, this huge building that looks as if it's glowing, like it's a heavenly thing being built in heaven. And you were always supposed to look up at these buildings. If you look at them, they're all topped with this ornate structures, but because they're built with rubbish next to them, it takes away from them. That's the only thing. Because they were going to the three graces, they called them as well. But yeah, you have to see them and know when to look at them. But when they were originally built, there wasn't rubbish surrounding them, so you could see them. Oh, well, the Adelphi Hotel, that's another famous landmark. But it's keeping these things updated. This camera's getting on my nerves. It keeps on sort of leaning back. But the Adelphi Hotel, the thing about that is, oh God, the chandeliers in there. My God, these huge, massive chandeliers, absolutely breathtaking when you see them. Oh, is it the Cunard building? I get mixed up. Yeah, it might be the Cunard building. Absolutely stunning. It's the one with the square one, isn't it? Or oblong one, I should say. Tuppence across the Mersey, or you pay more than that now. Oh, hey, Benny, yeah, that was very, very popular, that. Very popular book. But let's see, what's this? See, it's like getting else, unless they keep on putting money into it. It will never, they can't keep them up. Oh, yes, some of the old train stations. But again, you hear about Lime Street Station. Oh, it's wonderful and all that. It's not, it's just a station. They seem to rave for things about things that you think when you get there. And they don't know why they do that, because you get there and you think there's not all that spectacular. Unless I've seen prettier ones on my travels. But I think London has more ornate stations than Liverpool has. Oh, yeah. A save away. Oh, God, that's taken me. I haven't used one of them for years. But yeah, it's not places to see in Liverpool. But again, most cities are like that, aren't they? You'll always see. Oh, Blacklist. Yeah, that's another one. What's that? Wait a minute, Blacklist. Just trying to think. Just remember, remind us, Derek, is that the one by the View? Just if you remember, Blacklist. No, I'm getting mixed up. Am I getting mixed up? Blacklist, was that? No, I'm getting mixed up. I thought that's the one. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the shop, isn't it? See, I get mixed up with some of them. Oh, I get it. Where the spoons are St. John's Mark. Yeah, it's a different place I'm thinking of. Yeah, so the same. So interesting place. But that's the same. Most cities have. What you're best doing is coming when something's going on. But the only problem is if it's something like the Giants, if they ever bring them back again, that just was manic. You couldn't move. There were, God knows, there must have been hundreds of thousands of people in the city centre for that. You couldn't move. And they were saying with the spider thing, the princess. It goes on everywhere. And what are your thoughts on the depths of police corruption covering up grooming gangs in Telford and the rest? It's a scandal. The officers involved need the book. It's happening everywhere, and it's not just grooming gangs. It happens absolutely in all false areas. And the problem is, don't blame it. The ones that you need to get hold of are the ones at the top of the forces, the chief officers, because they're the ones doing it, and the professional standards departments. They're the ones doing it. It's whoever is acting as the force incident managers are doing it. They're all doing it. And they're the ones doing the covering up. Because as I say, I was saying to him a while ago, wasn't I, to Steve Wraith, when people go on about Masonic police officers, which still are, you find a couple of Masonic police officers, but being in the Freemasons now will actually hinder their career more than advance it. But I always said the police don't need to be Freemasons, they're their own Masonic lodge. And the PCC is the Grand Master, the Police and Crime Commissioner now is the Grand Master. It used to be a police association, but now it's the PCC. And the Crime Panel, they're the new Free Masonic Lodge. And get on the right side of them and they'll cover anything up. You'll be safe if you get on the right, because they have a direct line to the chiefs of the force. And that's the thing about it. And they know what's going on. Ben Joe became the highest ranking police officer in the country. Knew all about what's going on in the police. He knew. And he'd even been pulled for a potential cover-up he was involved in before he became chief constable. So, there you go. They all know what's going on, but they all keep it going. And they all know what's going on. Oh, 69A. Yeah. And last time I went there, it was, oh God, that now 69A, that's one that the Bohemian shop. Used to be able to go there and get jeans and things from the 50s. And you'd go in and you'd always have, it's like a real dusty place. And you'd see all these little quirky things. And if you wanted an Afghan coat from the 70s, you'd get no Afghan coats. And some amazing things there. So yeah, that's last time I looked, it was there. And they have incense. I went there, God, a couple of years ago, and got incense from there. So I thought, I'll go in, because I remember going in there when I was a youngster, and this incense, you don't see it now. Now it's like, my God, you've still got that. They said, oh yeah, they have things going back decades there. Oh yeah, it's all kinds. It's a dirty world, and we have dirty police forces that. But I say, the police officers, I tell you now, and I keep on saying this, keep go on about the police officers' rights. Police officers do report these things, police officers do log it, and it's blocked by the force incident managers. But the professional standards departments know this is going on, are fully behind it. And they'll attack anyone that reveals it. And that's what happened to me. I was the one that was to be brought down because I started speaking out about it when I found out. Oh, the blue coat, yeah. Must be they all are. They all are. You don't get to be a chief constable unless you're corrupt. I always used to say this, right? I'd call this term when I learned what I did and found out to the extent that this corruption goes on. BHH is Bernard Hogan now, by the way. Lovely fella to meet. If you met him, he was, got all kinds of rumours went round about when I first appeared in that force, all kinds of rumours went round about what me and him were getting up to. It's news to me, which tapped me on the shoulder and told me he was having so much fun. Though, no, it wasn't my type. But he be the nicest person you can meet, but that man knew what was going on there. I told him what was going on, and I knew he knew what was going on, and he did nothing to stop it. He did absolutely nothing. Thought about his own career and getting to the next level, which was the commissioner of the Met, who was now Cressida Dick, but he was there at the time. But no one, think of it like this. This is the term, this was going to say, this is the term I came up with. Saints don't get promoted in hell. Like promotes like. You won't get up the ranking system if you're going to expose the corruption. The only people that are going to get up the ranking system and reach the top levels of assistant chief constable, deputy chief constable, are people that have proven that they'll make sure that the secrets are kept secret. Logical, isn't it? They're not going to put someone in a position of power that's going to expose them all, are they? They're just not going to do it. So they're all, the present one that we've got here, a woman one, can't remember the name. She's going to be likewise. They all are. The police and crime commissioners are all on it. They're all on it. They're all keep it quiet. Oh, the highest levels are the ones that do it. Look, you're in the position, your ordinary Bobby is in the position, right? Yeah. So say non-ranker constable, or even your sergeant. They're on, or your inspector. They're on the level where they can't do anything about it. And this is what people don't understand. They say, oh, they're to blame because they're keeping it quiet. Look, right, the IOPC, who used to be the IPCC, the police watchdog, I went to them and told them what was going on. Do you know what they did? They blocked me complaint because I actually worked for a police force. Do you know that if you work for a police force, legally, any complaint you've got about police corruption can be blocked from an investigation just because you work for them? And that's what they did. So your ordinary Bobby can see this going on. And if they complain about it, that's then finished. Totally wiped out. And it's trying to get another job and all this once they leave. So, you know, it's the whole system. It's geared up to keep this quiet, including the Home Office. That's all geared to keep this quiet. And I have to say the press go along with it as well. So I've seen the Bobby's rage, and I used to see, that's how I first found out something was going on by a police officer coming in absolutely raging when he caught someone. And he said, we've caught him again. I think I've told this before. We've caught him again. And I was just watching him, and I thought he was going to start crying, but he was raging with temper. And he said, I'm going to put this on the system. Calls him with a young boy. This fella with a young boy. I know who it is. And he said he was with a young boy in his car again. And this young boy always turns out to be his nephew, even though the nephew knows nothing about his uncle for some strange reason. And he said, we'll put this on the system. And he said, the bleeding false incident manager will block it immediately from investigation. And that's exactly how it works. If you're open niche, what they call niche, then you'd see all the cover-ups. It would be obvious because it would be block, 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 block. It's dirty. The dirty, very dirty game it is. But there's nothing you can do about it because the whole system is geared to keep the police silent. The police need about 3 reviews. Big problem, constant. Look, you can do as many reviews as they want. If the Home Office and the structure isn't there to end this, you know what you'd have to do? You'd literally have to get from inspector upwards and get rid of every goddamn one of them and start afresh. That's impossible to do. It's a culture in there. It's not. That's why the Met, you'll never cure the chronic corruption at the Metropolitan Police. It's been going on since 18. When they were created? 1829, was it? It's been going on since then. It's a cultural thing. So you'd have to get rid and start from ground level up, and you can't do that because you've got to have officers who are experienced. There's nothing that happens, and it's happened in forces. They stop recruiting, and if they stop recruiting for a long time, what happens is they only have new recruits. All the old officers are retiring. But it's a job that you have to learn on the street. It's a job that you have to learn as you're going along. This thing, police colleges, absolute nonsense. You can't learn policing in a college. You can't do it. You've got to be on the ground doing it. And the youth always have the thing, right? They wouldn't look, someone would come along, apply for the police. They wouldn't even bother looking at what qualifications you had. They looked at what life experience someone had. And it would all go on the interview. And that's why you had a probation period as well. The probation period was they could get rid of you at any point in the probation period if you weren't considered suitable enough. That was to test you out. You don't need a degree to be a police officer. You just need to be able to handle a situation, a volatile situation, a difficult situation. That's what you need to do. You can have as many degrees as you want. They used to say that's why they wouldn't look at degrees or qualifications, because they'd had people with degrees and qualifications that were hopeless when they were in the job. Where what you ideally want is literally a bother boy, someone that, a reformed thug, should I say. That's what you want. Or a potential thug that didn't become a thug. That's what you want if you want Bobby to control the situation, as long as they leave the thuggery behind. But you need these tough people to get on, to get the job in there. Well, your nephew's just joined. You will struggle. Well, he'll just be stopped. If he's just joined, if he says then he'll be out the door, they can get rid of you within 2 years. Within 2 years, you have no rights if they get rid of you. So you have to, that's what will happen. It's no point opening your mouth in the police force. You just get absolutely hammered if you do. Absolutely hammered. Anything else to talk about? No one ever wants to come on. That fella ran away, didn't he? That came on. I must have scared him. Well, here we are. What's that one? Here we are. Called. When you look at a place like South America, where it's rotten to the core, Britain is the same, but just on a small scale. Think we're damn bad. What is it? On the whole, generally, it's better in the UK than what it is in a lot of countries. It is better. I mean, they do have the cover-ups. There can be corruption. We all know that. But it's usually better here. But again, if you're the one that is suffering from that corruption, or you're the victim of that corruption, it's not better. Let's put it that way. And it can tip at any moment. You can have a good police force. Depends what Home Secretary you've got in at the time and what government is there. Because what you've got to always remember, the police turn around and say that they're not political. They are. They're very political. And the reason they're political is because the highest office in the land, the keys to the highest role in the land, is held by the Home Secretary. So Home Secretary decides who's going to be the Commissioner of the Met, which is the highest rank. That gives the politicians a lot of power. But it's strange. The police were always Tories, the vast majority of them were Conservative. Then suddenly, when the Conservatives got in and started making the cuts, That all changed. Mentioned Tories, they'd be spit. Oh yeah, they are here. The police, make no doubt about it, they go on. You see, the thing is what the police, and this is the double standards they have and hypocrisy, I used to say. You'd see them going on about, civvies. Let me ask you a question. What does civilian police, why do we have the term civilian police? What does it mean? Is that referring to that they're police and civilians, or does it refer to the police officer themselves? Got a shock for you. It refers to the police officer. They're called civilian police to distinguish them from the military police. That's the difference, to make the difference so it doesn't get confused. But if you look at the policing bill that introduced the police in 1829, and you look at the legendary Peelian values, which Sir Robert Peel didn't actually write down, it was just taken out of his ideas and put together. They'll go on that the police and the public are the same, there's no difference. So when a police officer refers to, and I get this all the time, no, civvies and the police in the force, civilian staff and the police. There's no difference between the two. A police officer is a civilian. They are a civilian. Where does a police officer, when they're arrested, go to trial? In exactly the same court you would. Where do soldiers go to court? A military court. They don't go to the same court you do. That's the difference. That the only ones that can talk about civilians are military police and the military. They're the only ones with the right that can go on about that. The police themselves, every single police officer in the country is a civilian. But they've got this strange idea in their head that until they want the public support when the pensions are being cut and they go on the big marches, it's like, we're the public and the public are us. They start cutting the Peelian values. But any other time, it's civilians and we're better than you. No, every police officer is a civilian. Check it out. It's true. People are convinced somehow that there's a difference between a police officer and a member of the public. There isn't. Only that they have more powers than you do. But those powers are invested, but it doesn't make that a different class of citizen in the country. And I shouldn't say citizen. This is another thing. We say citizens, don't we? Shouldn't say citizen if you're being, and police officers say this, well, citizens, and you go on citizens' charters and all this. No, we're subjects. We are subjects to a crown. We're not a republic. They have citizens in republics. That's another little thing we get wrong. And one other thing when I'm on about it, which I heard Sean saying again, and I've had this out with him, he keeps on going on about war on drugs. War on drugs. And I've said, no, it's war against drugs. See, this is me being pedantic, being a little pedantic. Yes, I can be. Against drugs, Sean. War against drugs, not on drugs. On drugs means that you're standing on drugs, having this war. It's against, not on. And you get the police do that war on drugs. It's like it's war against drugs. Aren't I annoying? Aren't I annoying when I do things like that? I even annoy myself when I do it. No, well, this is it, Paris, right? This money thing, I've said this before, right? You wouldn't believe the money that's wasted in police forces. The police didn't have to really lose many officers. I mean, the cuts did go too far, but it wasn't as dramatic as it turned out to be. Because she'll tell you now, these officers, chief officers, feather their own nests. When one moves out their room, right, another one will have the room. It costs thousands, totally redecorated to their taste. Do you know where you could get a cheap, good chair, office chair from IKEA? They'll go get exactly more or less the same chair that will cost hundreds of pounds because it's covered in leather, and they'll have that. They'll be in that post for about a couple of years, might not even be that. Then someone else with more expense. Another thing they used to do, one famous one that happened, infamous one that happened in Alderman Street when I was there. One of them, Ashley, can't remember his first name, and I should remember it because I nearly jumped over a table at one point and punched him right in the face one day when he was at area commander. He said something to me and I was just ready to, that's what I mean. When someone gives me the right dig, I can actually rise up to it. And he was just in my face. And I thought, right, get in my face, mate. Now being right in my fist will be in your face. So this area commander, Ashley, he got thousands of costs, got his room redone because he wanted to be, I think it was Admiral Street, it might have been somewhere else. There, one of the first floor, I think it was, he had his office. They kitted it all out to his taste, to his lordship's, and got him an expensive chair for his privileged arse. Then he remembered he had a bad back and didn't want to walk up the one flight of stairs. They literally had to go and do another room. So money is wasted. And your chief constables have their own private chauffeurs. And and you should have seen what they did at headquarters in Mayside. Knowing these cuts were coming, they put on this event, right, which is all a setup to decide who would get a contract to redo the front offices, which were never going to be done because the cuts, but they did this. Do you know they actually got, which was scandalous, a professionally made, they called it the Dragons, right, after Dragon's Den. These 4 knobs, idiots, right, including one from Unison, to sit there and question these people over why they should get the contract. Oh, the Dragons were really tough with the question. Everyone knew who was getting the contract before it was even done. It was given to the person. They knew. They just set it up to make it look like that they were doing it fairly. That cost thousands, that event. So when they go on about, that, all these cuts, they've got too many senior officers as well. Admiral Street used to have an area commander. What is an area commander? An area commander is a chief superintendent. You had, I think it was 5 chief superintendents at the one station and an area commander, which is just a chief superintendent on more money. And Ashley actually said at one point, he said, I've got nothing to do. So they were feathering their own nests. Hundreds of thousands, if not, it would be millions actually, is wasted in police forces by that. So they don't have to lose all these officers. Oh yeah, the NHS is worse. I swear down, the NHS is worse. It's worse than the police. If you think the police are corrupt, don't even think of working for the NHS. It's absolutely horrific. Oh, Unison are terrible. Unison are terrible. So the Police Federation, they're not much better. Joe, I love this because I'm saying, what's going on? I can see little, your neighbourhood watch. Are they still a thing? Do you remember that? They stopped that, didn't they, neighbourhood watch, because some people were getting the information and robbing the houses. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good idea, neighbourhood watch, and especially if you've got someone that lives alone and, suddenly you don't see them or they're ill. It's a good thing to have. That's what you worry about, don't you? See, because where I live, everyone talks to everyone else and everyone knows everyone else. You know when someone's not around, or you think, wait a minute, let's knock. But there's plenty of areas that you don't have that. I mean, you walk out the door and everything, that we all chat to each other. If you're ever stuck for coffee or something, you're not scared to knock on the door and say, give us some coffee. But yeah, oh God, we've been there going for 3 hours. We'll get to 3 hours then wrap it up. But someone will have to come and talk to me at some point. You'll have to, Paris, next time you've got to jump on, girl. You have to have a good old chin wag. You'll have to. I love the way people have little, you're having little conversations between yourselves. Now, did I want to mention something else? Because you know what I like to do? I like taking little clips out of me, long broadcasts and putting them out there. I want to talk about something else. What do you want to talk about? I've got to talk about something topical so I can make a little video out of it. Let's see what's topical. Let's see what's topical. I've seen something before, didn't I? That's also a lot of that. Do you know, isn't it bloody typical? When I come on, it goes out of my head, and I was saying I'll have to talk about this, and I'm bleeding, it's gone out of my head. I was going to talk about something. Oh, let's talk about Jimmy Carr, eh? He's in the doo-doo at the moment, isn't he, Jimmy Carr? Over that. It was just, I don't know what he was thinking. No, he even says in it, doesn't he, when he's telling this joke? For people that don't know, he told a joke about travellers and the Holocaust, which was, I don't know where it was a joke. I just can't get where that was a joke or where he thought he could pull it off. But he came out with this. I'm not going to repeat it. But I thought, well, why has he done that? Sometimes you can cause a scandal and get negative attention, and it can boost your career, let's say. But other times it can finish your career. I always say to people, don't believe this, Jazz, that no publicity is bad publicity. It is. Sometimes publicity can absolutely destroy your Oh yeah, I'll have to do a quiz. I was thinking about doing that at some point. We can do a little quiz. But yeah, Jimmy Carr, I haven't got a clue what was going through his head. It's like career suicide. It is. He's just walked right into it, right into it. So I think he will get he'll get it back at him for doing that. And then there's Joe Rogan, isn't there? He's in trouble for things he said years ago. Now, this is the thing you have to be careful of. Things that are said years ago. I mean, it depends. People's attitudes and values change from age to age. And it doesn't seem very fair going back years to me to say, oh, they said that. Because at that time, it was considered a cool thing, wasn't it? It's like now, when black people use for a few years now, black people using the N word has been considered a no-no. It sounds too staged now. And I've heard people saying that to me. They said no. Said you're not supposed to say it. But it's getting... But, you know, the way it's going at the moment, see, people who are, you know, really fanatical. I mean, there are reasons you have to get a handle on some kinds of abuse. You have to, because there is a lot of abuse and hate speech out there. Some things have to you have to put a handle on. It's not good enough to say, oh, freedom of speech and all this business. Freedom of speech with responsibilities. But what's happening, it's becoming like too much of a cancel culture, as they're calling it, where a person can't make a mistake, a genuine mistake, or they can't be a product of the time. It's like you were a product. Things were different years ago. People said things differently. And it wouldn't have to say meaning, or they wouldn't see the same meaning that we see in it today. So that's going to set up the situation where the future generations who are trying to prove that they're the ones that should dictate and they're the important people will be cancelling the people who are cancelling now. It's going to happen. Things we're saying now and they're saying that are considered okay and cool. I can assure you at some point we're going to get to the stage where they'll be the ones that be saying, oh, you said this term back then. Oh, you can't say that. That's a bad term. You can't do this. That's a bad term. So they'll be getting cancelled themselves because someone will want to take the crown from their heads. And this is it. They want to take their crown for themselves. So what they'll say is they'll create their own things to find that will allow them to grab that crown and say, no, you're not worthy. You said this or you did that. Now I'll wear the crown. And that's what that's what it was like then. Oh, TV used to be, but this is it. We didn't notice it, did we, as much then? If you were a minority group, if you were black, you'd notice it. If you were Pakistani, you'd notice it. But as white people, we didn't notice it back then. We didn't sense it until it was drawn to our attention that actually this is wrong. What's going on? But it is getting, I say, these people who are doing this now, they will become victims of their own rules. It always happens. It always happens. But it's going a bit too. But with Jimmy Carr, he's walked right into it, and I don't have any sympathy for him. He's walked right into it. He's just poked the bear too much. So if he is taken down because he's walked into it knowing that will happen. Well, he's subbed, and that's another thing from the. I know, Bobby, you're being a bit offensive there, mate. What's the story? Oh, Brian Harvey, I said it last week. It will never be resolved between me and him. Let's just keep as far away from each other as we can. So anyway, we're coming up to the time period, so I'm going to start winding it up. What you just said about the BBC, Bob, you want to be careful. That can get you in trouble saying things like that. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, may think it, because you think it sometimes best to not say it. And I'm not being horrible to you when I say that. That's a fact of life. It's just a fact of life nowadays. Well, we've always had some restrictions. Look, every time we go through, it's just now it's more global. In the past, it used to be a local thing, cultural thing that you couldn't say this, you couldn't do that. But now it's global. That's the difference. And sometimes you're thinking, I don't even understand why it's offensive sometimes. But to someone, it is offensive. And they decide it's offensive. No, Bobby, you can actually. You can. You can't feel offensive. Someone you can. You can feel offensive. If someone's shouting them out of making remarks, it can. I've got the right to say, and other people have that's not right. Or that's on the edge. What you're saying was just a bit too edgy for my liking. Let's just put it that way. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll start winding it up now. Get all this off my face. But lovely. But someone, I say, Paris, next time I come on, when am I going to be on again? Friday, won't it? Yeah, I'll come back on again Friday. Make sure you jump on and start chatting. Because no one seems to want to come in and lots of people don't know. And that's where I draw the distinction. When someone says something in total ignorance or innocence and they don't know. And I've always pointed that out. Some people don't know the right term. Some people don't know that what they're saying is off. I mean, you can't cut right into them. The way things go like that. But we know the difference when someone's genuinely going out. I mean, you've had it, Paris. You've experienced it. Everyone can experience it. You don't have to be a minority group to experience something extremely offensive being said to you. You don't have to. It can be anyone. But yeah, there's a difference between someone making a mistake or using the wrong terminology that's a bit, or having an idea that's a bit off in the head. But if they can hold that idea, who said this, if they can back up that idea with their logic that's logical to them, you say, well, what you do, it's just their thoughts on it. But now it's getting really, really difficult to say anything because everyone's being watched, and what everyone says is being watched, and it's not always fair either the way it goes. It's not fair the way it's set up. It's just a few people making the rules, and you've got to stick to those rules. And half the time, they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. It's just like a term they come up with. It's like this thing intersex and hermaphrodite. I can't see why it ever changed. It was much easier to say hermaphrodite because people had some idea what you were talking about. Oh, right, they had a twisted idea what you were talking about. They had an idea. You say intersex now, they don't know what the hell you're talking about. What's that? And they'll say things like, well, you're mentally ill. And it's like, well, wait a minute, how can it be mentally ill when it's a physical condition I was born with? Oh, but you're mentally ill. It's like, no, I was born with this condition. It's a physical condition. And then they start thinking, oh, yeah. But, you just have to, where if you'd said hermaphrodite, they'd know what the hell you were talking. They'd have an idea what you were talking about. So they keep on changing. I can tell you now, at some point saying transgender will be an offensive term. They come up with new terms. I don't know why. They just have to. They can't keep, some terms do have to go. I agree with that. Like the term handicap, that wasn't nice because it meant cap in hand, beggar. That's what it meant. And so you can see things like that, which aren't very pleasant. But other than that, we all get in trouble at some point. But you just have to, as you say, people don't know what to say half the time. And you can't hold someone up against the wall and condemn them when they do something out of total ignorance or they just don't know what the relevant term is. They just don't know. But anyway, I'll wrap it up for now. So thank you for people for joining me. I'll be back on. I'll be back on Friday, is it? Or is it Saturday? Oh, do you know what? I'll decide. I might pop on earlier on Thursday. You know what I might do? I might make it Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. That seems more logical, doesn't it? And hopefully, as more people see, more people start thinking, no, I'll join in and start chatting with that. And we'll have a good chat because it'll be better then when I start doing that. So, anyway, have a good night, my lovelies. Thank you for joining me. And see you again, darlings. Bye bye for now.